Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot mic underway. The Thursday edition is here. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Jam-packed show. The Commanders' new ownership is about to take over. We'll have details in just a bit. Trey Wallace from OutKick.com will join us in 20 minutes. The latest on the Southeastern Conference and more, including what's the future at quarterback after Anthony Richardson has headed to the draft in Florida. We'll discuss that in the Gators program with Trey. AJ Perez, Front Office Sports, with the details on Josh Harris and his ownership group purchasing the Washington Commanders from Dan Snyder. That's coming up at the end of the hour. Plus Armando Salguero and Cynthia Freeland from NFL Network. She will join us in hour number 3. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. I was very excited when I looked up at the TV monitor in front of us today, and I realized for the first time this season, I am equally as tan as you are after being outside as much as I have. So the time has arrived where I've finally caught up to Hutton's tan, and we're equally as tan.
Your
after
self-tanner is working.
Mowing the yard this morning outside, and finally my bronzer, also bronzer and toner,
well done.
has finally worked in conjunction with the sun and the vitamin D, and I've arrived at a place where I'm I'd say almost as tan as you are. So here we are. Let's go.
You mentioned vitamin D. I once had a low D problem.
You did. Very low D.
It was not low T. I thought for a moment it may have been. And turns out I had no vitamin D in my body.
I was convinced you had lupus. I thought you may have had some sort of anemia. We were at the Combine in Indy, which the Combine in Indy, for those that haven't been there, the weather's never good. It's always gray and about 24 degrees.
Disease-filled
So
city.
it does take a lot out of you. Everyone leaves there ill in some way. So I thought it was just more of the morose season of February and being in Indy that was bringing Hutton down. And he couldn't even go out to dinner. You know, we're like making dinner plans. Like, guys, I just don't know if I can make it. I'd probably just stay back here and prep for tomorrow. And I'm thinking, this is very unlike Hutton. And he goes to the doctor, and he's got low D. Vitamin D deficiency. And I was like, is it 1785 and you just sailed across the Atlantic? How do you have a vitamin D deficiency?
They would have just drugged me outside and executed me. If
34 years old, living, in a modern society. I didn't know that this was a thing. Hutton had scurvy for a time, apparently.
Yeah.
But you made it through, so congrats.
I did, and at that time I was also binge watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that may have also been a...
No, but it was a combo.
Yeah, Hutton made it through Game of Thrones in record time because of his low D.
That week in India.
With a quickness.
Hey, so congratulations to the NFL owners, because Dan Snyder has agreed in principle to sell the Washington Commanders for $6 billion, the asking price, to Josh Harris, owner of the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils. There is another billionaire investor also included in this ownership group, as well as Magic Johnson. And they have the funds to pull off what is a great news day for the rest of NFL ownership, because they didn't vote Dan Snyder out. They could have. They didn't. And meanwhile, they still get Daniel Snyder out while allowing him to choose who he's going to sell the team to, without setting a precedent of voting an owner out of the fraternity, which is what every one of those owners is worried about. Every one of them has something behind the scenes, and some of them are way more public than others, and way worse, probably. But you think like Jerry Jones wants Dan Snyder voted out? No, because then you end up having 75% vote for the next disagreement that comes up, or the next time that something is not great for the shield of the NFL. Chad, we discussed this a year ago, that they were never going to vote him out, but they ousted him anyway, and they did it on his terms. But they still get it done in a time frame that I was surprised by, quite frankly. I thought he was going to dig in and not allow anyone to tell him what to do or what he could not do as an owner of the Commanders. But keep in mind, he's been suspended from that. His wife's been the acting owner, quote unquote. He moved out of his office, 200 or so days ago now, and now he sells. And as a parting gift, he gets $6 billion to leave the NFL. And all of the teams, by the way, their value goes up because now we have a new record sell in the league. Last year was 4.6 with the Denver Broncos. Now it's $6 billion. And Seattle's up next.
It's a great day for the NFL to get rid of this this Daniel Snyder problem. I'll also say that I don't know that I'm ever going to be completely comfortable until this guy's dead in terms of him being a secret keeper for everyone in the league. If he is in fact been paying security people and those to monitor other owners, he's such a loose cannon. I'm not advising him do anything about it. I'm just saying who knows? Like, they could say one thing about the report, or something could get out about him now that he's sold, and he could blame some other owner and just burn it down. Every time I look at Dan Snyder, I think about the line in Batman where they say, some people just want to watch the world burn, and the Joker. He could be that type of guy. Now, he's got 6 billion reasons why he should be happy, and he can sell off into the sunset, and he got what he wanted out of it, and it doesn't look like there's going to be other big repercussions to come for him. But I don't know that I'm just sleeping completely easy thinking, well, this guy's never going to tell secrets at any point if you're another owner. Well,
there have been other ownership factors, right, that have departed Washington. Fred Smith comes to mind.
Yeah.
He was a 30% owner at one point, and Snyder bought him out, but Smith wanted out. And, I mean, that's been relatively quiet. So I don't think I think there are a lot of people that could turn on him, too, if he were to do something like that.
Yeah, it's
worse for the league if he's a part of the league.
Look, this is all good for the NFL. I'm casting a little bit of doubt in this with Dan Snyder and what he could do in the future. My one concern, if I'm one of the owners that, and I'm not saying he has something on every owner, but if I'm one of the owners that he's got something on, or he could put something over on them, my concern, Hutton, is that he has nothing left to lose now he doesn't have his team, and he's not a part of the league. So now he could be quicker if he gets triggered in any way and his temper is set off. He could burn it down on someone else just because he seems to be a very petty little man. And he could do that now and not fear any repercussion from the league because, hey, I washed my hands of it. I got my $6 billion and I sold my team.
But he's also
I'm no longer a part of the Shield.
He's still facing that federal investigation.
Right.
And on top of it, the owners gave him, they just said, hey, go sell the team. Do whatever you want. Just let us know whenever you choose who you're going to sell it to. They could have voted him out, and he could have had less than $6 billion whenever they chose to, hand it over to Bezos, which they didn't do.
Yeah, I'm being a little devil's advocate here, but I think mostly this is a great day for the league. And this Josh Harris group, already, just what you see that he's done.
Yeah.
In ownership now already, and he's from the area. It's light years better. No idea what he's going to be like ultimately with the club, but it looks already like it's going to be light years better than what you got from Dan Snyder.
Yep. I'm curious, too, what happens with the 76ers and with the Devils, because if you have ownership in other professional leagues, the major leagues in the U.S., you can't be the majority owner of an NFL franchise. So, for instance, Stan Kroenke, he owns the Denver Nuggets as well, but technically his wife owns the Denver Nuggets, not Stan Kroenke, who owns the Los Angeles Rams. They'll have to maneuver that, but it's still going to be the Harris ownership group that's going to be the controlling owners of all three. And what a powerful group now.
Yeah.
I mean, they already were. But it's tough to meet the restrictions of what the NFL demands for the certain debt that you take on to finance a team. The NFL requires that at least 30% of a team purchase right now is liquid by the controlling owner. So you have that, plus you take on the debt that was raised by whenever they financed the $900 million, I believe, whenever they bought out Arthur Smith's father, FedEx. And
I marvel at the money people behind these businesses that are coming up with the ways in which these huge conglomerate business people are liquid and all of their money interest everywhere and what things are worth and what facilities they own and office complexes and everything that they could immediately get a hold of and where their liquidity lies. That is fascinating to me.
And soon a stadium. That's the next thing for the Commanders. A new stadium, which means it will be state-of-the-art, a Super Bowl, will be headed to the D.C. area based on that build whenever it's finally done. Chad, Tony Petitti, the new Big Ten commissioner, and from how you view things and seeing his background, what's the focus of the new commissioner?
Well, the focus is on the future of the Big Ten. No doubt about it. But if you are in his position right now as the leader of one of the big two with the Big Ten and the SEC, I really think Petitti needs to keep an eye on what's going to happen with college sports, because someone's going to have to take leadership. And if it's going to be anyone, it's going to be him and Greg Sankey. I think they are a candidate, both of them together are candidates to figure out the future of college sports. College sports is not dying anytime soon. It's not going to go away, but it is changing. And we are at a breaking point right now of what it could be in the future. And it could be better, and it could be a heck of a lot worse. Women's sports could suffer in the future if this thing breaks the way of professional sports, and they're going to take a look at it and say, we're only going to move forward with sports that make us money. If that's the case, Title IX and women's sports will be a problem at universities. These teams that make money being separate of the university in some way could be a problem for college sports. I'm not saying Tony Petitti should come in and say, hey, I'm gonna skirt my responsibilities here with the conference and go and be an ambassador for all of college sports. His first priority is the Big Ten. But he's got a chance to be a change agent, and he's got a chance to help shape the future of sports in college, the NCAA. He is now one of the most powerful people in all of sports.
Instantly.
So understand that responsibility. And I think the broad point I'm trying to make is don't look out only for yourself. There's going to be, if you do that and you constantly do that, the NFL works because they look out for the NFL, knowing that they're all going to make money and profit from it. At some point, Greg Sankey and Petitti and the leaders in college sports and the head of the NCAA and NIL groups and everyone, they have to put their heads together and work in conjunction to figure out a plan to make sure college sports are exciting, are what they should be, and they're profitable for the future. And that it works for the athletes as well as the coaches and administrators and everyone else. That's on Petitti now. It's on Sankey as well. But I just don't want this to be I'm going to get mine, screw you, I don't care if you get yours. I'm in this for my conference only. There needs to be a little bit more of a group effort. I'm not emphasizing communism here, but I am saying they need to look out for the good of the sports of all of these universities as a whole, and it's these two men now that can do that better than anyone else. Well, and I'm talking SEC commissioner and Big Ten commissioner.
Well, the two that were in charge prior to Kevin Warren leaving were, of course, Warren and Sankey. And they didn't seem to like each other all that much.
Nope. It very much was
a rivalry.
It very much was a kill or be killed rivalry between
Arms
the two.
Race.
Yeah.
And I wonder what this hire means for that partnership. Because you had Klavkoff going to Capitol Hill with Greg Sankey. It wasn't Kevin Warren. And now I wonder if, you pick up the phone and actually call Greg Sankey, if Sankey does that with him. Or does the rivalry continue and you press forward as is?
Yeah, don't.
What's the better option there?
Well, don't be what politics in America has become, where you can't get a bipartisan solution on anything. There's going to come a time where there's going to reach a crisis point in college sports where you're going to have a bipartisan solution. That bipartisan solution is the Big Ten and the SEC agreeing wholeheartedly on something and working to push the sports further in college and make sure everyone gets to the same conclusion they've reached.
Well, I don't know how much they're bringing the other conferences with them. They'll choke the other ones out if they're going to partner together.
Well, I'm saying they can lift all conferences below them as well by doing what's right for college sports. There's a way where those two can lead and others will follow and not be completely left behind. But there's no denying these are the two most powerful conferences. So they're going to have to be on board with whatever good change is going to happen.
And the other partnerships are interesting because with Petitti, I wonder from his time at CBS, what were the partnerships like with the ACC at the time, Big 12, Pac-12, and the communication he'll have with them? Again, this is where you wish you had the president of the NCAA that wasn't having to solely focus on name, image, likeness, and whether or not they're going to get sued at a federal level and have to go in front of the Supreme Court, right? That's the focus there. Meanwhile, the focus on the conferences right now is the arms race for TV and the survival rate of the other Big Five. But no one's really looking past the Power Five in the discussion. And that's where we'll see the branch, but the break on the branch. But I also wonder, is it 5? Is it 4? Is it 3 big conferences and you swallow up some of the other programs that want to join, and then the rest are left to fend for themselves in the group that's left instead of the group of 5?
Yeah, and part of this may be a breaking off of a lot of different programs and some conferences maybe also, and maybe that's what has to happen in order to move forward and keep college sports the way we know it, at least as close to the way it was as we can. And maybe that's necessary, but it's going to take those two guys getting together and looking out not just for their own conferences, but for what's best for college sports.
Chad, you watched the NBA 2 nights ago. Did you watch it last night?
I did.
How did the bets go?
Not well.
Okay, so
you took the Raptors. Third leg of my parlay was Raptors -5. Feeling pretty good when I looked down and saw they were up 19.
And DeMar DeRozan is back.
Turned over to see Caruso bury a corner 3 to tie it for the Bulls. Wasn't as excited from that point on. Not nearly as excited as DeMar DeRozan's daughter.
Yes, back with Chicago, and DeMar DeRozan's daughter begged to go to Toronto for the game.
Already, but what was kind of the decision between having her come and what was it like having her under the basket there?
It's crazy. My daughter called me the other day when she was getting out of school, and she was just, she just said, "Dad, can I come to the Toronto game?" I remember going to all the Toronto games when she was a kid, and I almost said no because she in school back home. She kept asking. She was just adamant about coming to support, and I just said, "You can miss one day at school and come to a game," and I'm glad I did. I owe her some money for sure.
How old is she coming freshman?
No, she got to go back to school. School class. 9.
Chad, the scream that
it's hilarious
led to the missed free throw is awesome.
I mean, her facial expression too. I mean, you want to talk about full-throated passion for her dad and her favorite team. It was incredible just seeing the emotion on her face throughout that game and hearing that little girl scream.
And he heard
every
it.
time.
And
they were 18 for 36 from the free throw line. 50%. That's what she calls. That was her doing.
Oh, and now that's going to be a thing to look for now when you see the Chicago Bulls play.
Yeah, I mean, I think her school will understand that she can miss a little bit more. I think if you're a Bulls fan, you want her there at every game now.
Yeah, and and on the road.
Yeah. Could she be a younger version of Sister Jean this postseason run for the Bulls? Did we just find a new Sister Jean with this little girl? Maybe.
She can sit next to Zion Williamson, who's
new Bulls mascot.
Sitting out of must-win games for the Pelicans. Look, there's no doubt when the dude plays, he's very good. He's averaging 25.8 points per game in his 32 minutes per game average. So when he's on the floor, he is the best on the floor. But the problem is, Chad, he's played in just 114 games in 4 seasons and 28 games the last 2. I mean, that is bust. And he sits out this one, and, of course, the Pelicans lose last night.
Yeah, I don't need to hear how good he is when he plays. He never plays.
Yeah, he's just hurt. He's done. Like
look, we didn't say.
And he's already he's got the max contract there too.
Like Greg Oden, was a bust because of injury, but I don't know what he did when he played, but if he played a few games, and said, man, he was really good when he played. Well, he's a bust because he's not available. So Zion Williamson the same way. And this is one I think about Bryce Young, with everyone pointing to his size and saying, oh, he's going to get hurt. He's going to get hurt. There were a lot of people looking at Zion Williamson at Duke and thinking, this guy's heavy. This guy's heavy. He's going to get hurt. That's a lot of wear and tear over a lot of games if you're going to carry that much weight around. And those people are probably saying, I told you so right now, because he cannot stay healthy.
And he's just signed a 5-year rookie max extension. It's worth $193 million at least. It can go up to $231 million. Doesn't seem like he's going to reach those incentives, but it kicks in next year, the 23-24 season. So the money's going to be there,
Well,
but
good for
Zion's
him.
not going to be on the floor.
We should all get paid to not work.
Yeah, or sent out for the mental issues or whatever else.
My allergies are bothering me a lot. I'm having to clear my throat a lot. I'm going to miss the next 4 weeks. Please give me all of my money that I should
or
make
just
for the
eat
show
and get out
for
of
not
shape
doing
or you can't
it.
run.
Right.
Coming up, Trey Wallace joins us. Anthony Richardson's going to get paid. He already knows, like top 5, it's already slotted for him where he's going to go based on the top 10 projections. He knows he's going to be a top 10 pick in April's draft later this month. But what will Florida do after Richardson is now gone? We've got spring games. We've got spring games to discuss that are coming up this weekend. Quarterback battle as well at A&M. That and more straight ahead with Trey on Hot Mic.
Controversial opinion.
I think girls with hairy armpits should be eradicated from the face of this earth.
I agree.
Thank you so much.
Hottest take is that In-N-Out is overrated.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Because their french fries taste like cardboard and they get soggy too quick if you get them animal style, and their burgers are just like always dry. So it's gross.
Hot dog is not a sandwich
Why not?
because it's not 2 separate pieces of bread.
What's your hottest take?
Normalize blacking out.
ChatGPT is going to take over the world.
Hate Duke University. I hope they never win a game in the history of life. I hate everything about them. That's my take.
Why is that your hot take? Why do you feel so strongly about that?
Air of arrogance amongst people I'm friends with, and I want to punch them in the face often.
I believe there shouldn't be any weight classes in fighting, UFC, boxing, just let the best fighter fight.
I'm a Packers fan. I think it'd be great if Aaron Rodgers leaves. It'd be really funny if he demanded all this stuff from the Jets and then stayed.
LeBron James is not the go to basketball.
My hot take is that the University of Tennessee is hot trash, and so is the SEC. Go Big Ten.
I hate when people slow down when it's a green light and they think it's going to turn yellow, so they slow down anticipating that it's going to turn like red.
People do that?
Yeah, at least in Canada.
He's from Canada. I asked people from Canada for their hot takes. They don't have any. They don't have any.
I'm not a controversial person. To each their own, I guess.
Hot takes from Canada.
Snapchat is cringy. Do not ask for my Snapchat if you are over 18 years old.
I think a celebrity that got canceled and shouldn't have is Hayley Williams from Paramore, simply because she said a derogatory term in her song Misery Business from like 15 years ago. 15 years later, they decide she's a criminal? I don't know about that.
I think the Beatles are overrated.
I'm here in Nashville. My hot take is that country music sucks.
Taylor Swift is overrated.
Swift was better country, for sure.
Cowboy boots aren't cool.
We are far from the most racist country in the world. I'm so ready for the new president.
Here we go. Joe Biden is a terrible president. Trump 2024.
Details on the sale of the Washington Commanders coming up with A.J. Perez, Front Office Sports. He'll be with us in 20 minutes. Hot Mic rolls on with Trey Wallace. OutKick.com is where you can read his work. Trey, good afternoon. Hope things are well. And spring games are coming our way this weekend.
Yeah, it's hope you guys are doing well as also as well. I was about to say as well. No, we got a spring game going on tonight in Gainesville. There's a spring game Saturday here in Columbia, South Carolina, where I'm at right now. That will go down Saturday night. Spencer Rattler looking to put on a show. So yeah, it's all, we're finally, we're kind of here. We're kind of getting over the hump. Couple more next weekend. Prime time will be going with Dion and LSU and Nick Saban and. So yeah, no, but we finally made it to that point of the year where we're about to be Mount Rushmore talk.
Yeah, you got that right. Maybe not here, but elsewhere.
Never on this show. We've always vowed to never have a Mount Rushmore discussion, or LeBron versus Jordan. Those are the two discussions we've outlawed from the show.
All these lists. It's list season, Trey. So let's list the quarterback options for Florida. They're slim now that Anthony Richardson is headed to the NFL and he'll be drafted in 2 weeks in the first round.
Yeah, we look at it right now, it's Jack Miller, or do they go with Graham Mertz from Wisconsin? And I think this is a situation where, in talking with some coaches down at Florida, they just, they don't feel comfortable right now in saying that one guy is out in front of the other. And, Graham Mertz was brought in for, to bring in some experience into the program. Like, I know Jack Miller was the bowl game starter and whatnot and played a little bit last season, but you want somebody in there, with that veteran experience bring to the locker room. And I think it could work out for Graham. At Florida, I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is that, it's difficult running this system. And, it's unfortunate, as a college football fan, that we didn't get to see more of Anthony Richardson at Florida. I think that was the biggest thing to me is, man, I would love to see another year out of him and what he'd look like under Billy Napier's offense. But now going forward, it comes down, to Mertz or Miller. And I honestly think that, with Jack Miller being in the system a little bit longer, Hutton, I think that he's probably going to have a little bit of a leg up here. But Florida fans are going to see a number 15 tonight running around the field, and they're going to be like, oh, my gosh, he looks like Tim Tebow, and they're going to go crazy. So that's why I just say to Florida fans, calm down, chill out. Graham Mertz is nowhere near anything like Tim Tebow, and
maybe
we'll
age.
see how it plays out.
Except maybe
except for maybe age. And like this is one of those races, Hut, where it's not going to end tonight. Like this is going to end in fall camp. So something to keep it, it's college football on a Thursday night. Tune in for a couple quarters.
And Chad made the comment during the break, right as we went to break. He said, man, the Florida quarterback situation and Billy Napier and what this team could look like, or the position could look like, Chad, in October and November, it could get dicey.
Well, at Utah, then they get McNeese at home, then they get Tennessee at home. If this thing's 1-2, and you couple that with Anthony Richardson starting immediately for someone and looking good in the NFL, this could get dicey in year 2. I mean, Trey, Florida fans in that university, not known for their patience with football coaches there because of all the success they've had starting with Steve Spurrier. What do you think about the possibilities of this team maybe starting 1-2 and what that could look like for that fan base?
I don't think they're going out to Utah on Thursday night, the 31st, and grabbing a win. So that's a loss right there. If Tennessee gets anything out of Joe Milton, and if he's anything like, kind of what we saw at the end of last season, not at the beginning of 2021, then that's another loss. Especially if you're not getting consistent quarterback play and your defensive secondary, it's all whacked out. But I think, look, Florida fans are on this little situation right now where they don't know how much they trust Billy Napier. Like, he kind of says the right things. He kind of does the right things in public. It's like, okay, I want to trust you. And then they go back and they look at, well, how in the world did we go what we did last season record-wise with Anthony Richardson, who's about to become a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, top 10 draft pick? Like, how does that happen? I feel like right now Florida fans are in that situation where they're like, man, we really want to believe in the program, but you know what? We're not going to really buy in until we start seeing some results on the field. So I don't blame them. And as for Billy Napier, you start off 1-2, Chad, in the not in the conference, but on the season. It's a long hoe. I mean, look what happened with Jimbo last season. They dropped that game to App State, and then all of a sudden it just curtails off. So I'm just saying, Florida fans, stay calm, but know that the next season's going to be difficult.
Yeah, and he's tried to weed out those on the roster he didn't want around based on the group he took over too. So they're in flux, and it starts at the quarterback position and who can prove it. You mentioned Jimbo though, Trey, and Connor Weigman in this very small glimpse. 4 games, 8 touchdown passes. He threw for 900 or 1,000 yards in those games, and 5-star prospect, maybe the most complete total package that Jimbo Fisher has had since he arrived there in 2017. But they're not naming him the starter yet.
No, and maybe you give that a little bit of leeway because Bobby Petrino just came in, and he's having his first spring, with the quarterbacks and whatnot and the offense. I mean, maybe you get that little bit of head nod as a reason why. But if you look at the past number of years with Jimbo Fisher, guys, he has failed the quarterback position. And when I look at Texas A&M, I look at all the quarterbacks that aren't there anymore as well. I mean, think about it. Last year, the savior was going to be Haynes King entering the season.
Yeah,
Haynes King's not at Texas A&M anymore. Zach Calzada, the guy who beat Alabama, 2 years ago, not at Texas A&M anymore. There's 4 or 5 guys. So I look at right now, and I look at Max Johnson. We've all seen, from LSU. He has potential to me. That is a guy that could come in there and run Jimbo or Bobby Petrino's offense. I'm getting mixed up on who's actually going to run the offense. But you look at this thing overall, they can't screw this year up. This has to be a year that you're in playoff contention. When I say playoff contention, I mean be in the top 12 of the rankings with 4 weeks to go in the season, where you can maybe make a run into the playoffs. Be around. This is not the type of team that needs to go, 8-4, 7-5. This should be a 10-2 football team. And I feel like with the excuse last year was where everybody was so young, our class was so young. Dude, you've been around Jimbo. I mean, Jimbo's been around College Station now for 5+ years. The we're young excuse, that's over. That's done. You can't use that anymore. You've had a whole influx of your whole class come through and graduate. So if they did graduate. So just technically saying, can't use it anymore. Now it's all on you. So, I got this feeling, man, and if things start off bad in College Station, and don't forget, they got to go to South Florida in the first 2 weeks of the season to play Miami. And I know how that game went last year in College Station, but you still got to go on the road to Miami. So it's going to be very interesting to me to see how it plays out, the quarterback position for Jimbo Fisher, because, damn it, he's got to get it right this time. He can't keep screwing this up, because if he does, they will write him a fat check, and he will be embarrassed. He'll be rich, embarrassed, and without a job. That will happen if he doesn't watch it. So I don't know. We're going to find out.
Trey, I know you mentioned you're in Columbia, South Carolina, and there's going to be a piece coming to OutKick.com to check out with that trip. Is there a specific spring game you have your eye on for a storyline? Is there a concept they're going to go through in a spring game that's different? I don't honestly know what to watch anymore, because some of these are just like drills. It's not really a game. You don't know how much you're going to see of certain young guys. What is there to watch out there?
Yeah, I think tonight, Florida is going to go with a 4-quarter system. They're going to have a running clock, but they're going to go 4 quarters. They're going to stop play with 4 minutes to go in each half. Okay, that's something worth watching, just to see the quarterback kind of sling the ball around. Like, it's real. Honestly, guys, it's different, for each school, and for each fan base. It's because why are you tuning in? Like Tennessee fans, you already know what Joe Milton has. If you're a Georgia fan or an Alabama fan, you're tuning in because you want to see what Brock Vandagriff and Carson Beck have. And then if you're a Bama fan, it's okay, what's Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe look like? Like, this is our first public viewing of these guys. And I think, Alabama usually does it the normal way where they have quarters and they have halftime and whatnot and come back out and blah, blah, blah. Georgia, I think, pretty sure is doing the same thing. Look, it's going to be interesting for like maybe a half. That's it. And if you got a running clock, that's even better. These guys are not wanting to get out there and get hurt. We all know that. South Carolina, where I'm at right now, even though I won't be attending the spring game Saturday night, they decided, hey, man, let's make this a whole big thing. Let's have a night game at Williams-Brice. Let's have a big music festival outside. Spencer Rattler and this new offense will be on display. Shane Beamer trying to continue, drumming up support for the program, which he's done a great job at. So I think if you're looking at something to watch, like for next weekend is what folks are going to watch, and that's Deion Sanders. And they're going to watch it because this is Deion's first trip to, at Colorado. Let's see how he reacts because they're going to have him on a live mic the whole game. Like, that's something that will maybe entertain folks for a spring game. But, the regular old days, guys, of just going out there and kicking off and playing a number of snaps and whatnot, like, those days are over with. And I think that's why fans are getting tired of spring games in college football. So switch it up. Give us some different opponents, man. Make it worthwhile.
Trey, we've got a minute left. What is it like?
Yeah.
What do you think it's like being Spencer Rattler in Columbia, South Carolina?
I think it's a lot better now than what it was, in the first 6 games of last year. I think he was probably like, why the hell did I come to Columbia, South Carolina? But I think the way that they ended last year with wins over Tennessee, Clemson, almost beating Notre Dame in that great bowl game that we saw, I think life is pretty good right now. And a new offensive coordinator, somebody that's not hamstrung him a little bit, and Dow Loggins, I think, is good. And excited to be around them tomorrow. We're gonna do a behind the scenes look at some college football programs in South Carolina. Is first up on the list tomorrow. So a lot of content to come to OutKick.com over the next week or so from Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks and Spencer Rattler and whatnot. So we'll see, guys. But I appreciate y'all having me on this.
We'll be reading it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Trey.
Looking forward to that, Trey. And you can also check out the Trey Wallace podcast, available now at OutKick.com. Bill Bender from the Sporting News, the guest this week. You can check that out each and every week, the Trey Wallace podcast. Trey, enjoy it, man.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Yep, there's Trey Wallace there. And, Chad, we transition from the SEC back to the NFL, where the Washington Commanders, well, they have new ownership.
Financial
being
minute.
Finalized.
Coming up
where
next.
Dan Snyder has decided, yes, I will take $6 billion. Josh Harris and his ownership group, they were the only one to officially bid and have the offer that met what Snyder was looking for. AJ Perez, Front Office Sports, knows the details. He joins us next on Hot Mic.
A newlywed man in India just died after his wife's ex-lover gifted them a stereo filled with, wait for it, explosives. Man, it's undefeated, ladies and gentlemen. It is undefeated, and if you don't know what I'm saying is undefeated, then I cannot help you. But it is undefeated. It is 600 million and oh. And all of a sudden, some dude in India, he just wants to get married. And this guy here decides, all right, marry this. How easy is it to say, well, fella, you're the one that gave the gift. You gave the gift exploded, there were bombs in the gift. Guess what? We're going to arrest you. Now, I'm not saying that this is the easiest crime to solve in the world. I would argue there is probably more. Many times it is, well, not murder that's easily solved. And many times murders are not easily solved. Murders can be very, very difficult to solve. But this murder, to me, seems like a no-brainer. Hey, wait a second. Who gave the gift of the stereo? You know, the one that exploded? He did. Okay, sir, come with me. You're under arrest for a variety of offenses, including murder. What? What'd I do? What do you mean, what you do? You killed somebody. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. Dumbass. I'm telling you, though, and I think everybody would agree, it is 1,000% undefeated. 8 billion. And I'm trying to find here, I had the story up, and I'm trying to find it here. So the bride's ex gifts them a home theater music system rigged with explosives. The dude was livid that she was marrying another man. Hemendra Hirali died Monday in his house. His elder brother, Rajkumar, died as well. They plugged in the system. They died. 18-month-old child suffered injuries. The blast was so strong, it brought down the roof and the walls of the house. This guy is Sarjay Markham. He was arrested. He is a married man and a father of 2. He was in a relationship with the 29-year-old woman and wanted her to be a second wife. He had lied to Marawi's wife that he wasn't married. She realized the truth. She wouldn't marry him, but he kept threatening her. He fitted the bomb in the system and kept it below the platform with the other gifts. He told police he had planted the device in the home theater and gifted it to the newlywed couple in a bid to kill them. He used ammonia nitrate, petrol, gunpowder that he got from firecrackers. He gift wrapped it to avoid any suspicion. The blast got triggered when the system was turned on. He worked at a stone crushing plant where he learned how to make explosives using aluminum nitrate. How about that?
Reports are that Josh Harris and his ownership group have agreed in principle with Daniel Snyder to purchase the Washington Commanders. Hot Mike across the OutKick network rolls on. Hutton and Withrow with you, joined by AJ Perez. Great to have you back on, AJ. He's with Front Office Sports, senior reporter who's been all over covering the details of the Snyder saga and the Commanders sale. We last time we had you on, you told us, hey, Harris right now is the only surefire bid that's fully funded, and ultimately that ends up being the case throughout.
Yeah, I mean, I just tweeted it out a second ago. I was, it's done. It could be announced in the coming. It's not done, but once we get to this point, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. So yeah, we talked 3 weeks ago at the owners' meetings. That's when I kind of was pushing back on some of the reports about this Canadian coming in. There was just nobody else. And yesterday, we reported Bezos was out. Fertitta goes on CNBC saying that he topped out at $5.6 billion. Josh Harris is really the only one that was willing to go even close to $6 billion. It's a lot of money. And you have to really add on $3 to $4 billion to this purchase price because team needs a new stadium.
Yes.
Those aren't cheap. And just not a lot of appetite around here in DC, the DC area, to pay for in public financing of a new stadium. It's going to be tough. It'll be a lot easier for Josh Harris and Magic Johnson and Mitchell Rales, and there'll be a couple of other names attached to this ownership group that will be coming out. It'll be a lot easier for them than with Dan Snyder. I mean, Dan Snyder's, I'm not sure many people in DC have a lower approval rating, and that says a lot.
Yeah, and he gets to leave with $6 billion, right? That's a crazy departure fee there.
$5 billion because he has like six. He does have $1 billion in debt he has to pay back.
Okay,
so, but yeah.
The debt that he took out to buy out the other owners a few years back. AJ Perez with us from Front Office Sports. What is Josh Harris known for as an owner? And the vetting process, of course, it was those behind the scenes. I think Arthur Blank was saying publicly that they didn't know very much about the sale to that point. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. But clearly, the owners are going to clear this ownership group and bring them into the fraternity, as opposed to maybe some others who have tried to purchase teams in years past but could not get that vote done. What do you make of Josh Harris and what he brings to the league?
I mean, I think you see the Sixers and the Devils, which he's a co-owner of. They're doing pretty well. I mean, they're going to be contenders for both their the NHL and NBA postseason, their respective playoff runs. I think, he also is from Maryland. He is from the DC area, so he understands what this team meant to a lot of people his age. I mean, probably anybody older than, I would say, 35, I would say probably forgot about what the team was like, in the 80s, 90s, and maybe the 70s when they were, Joe Gibbs and the Hogs and everything else. And that all went away. It's been investigations. It's been reports of toxic workplace allegations. It's been everything but football here. And Dan Snyder only went to the postseason 6 times as owner. That's what it comes down to as well. Josh Harris, I think he kind of lost out last year. He did lose out last year with the Broncos. Much better prepared this time. His ownership group, obviously, the names that we do know are very familiar. At least Mitchell Rales is mostly local if you know our community, but yeah, but this is a very solid group, and I think even though this was the only option, it's not a bad one.
And the next team likely to be sold will be the Seattle Seahawks, and there's an obvious name in that area that would make sense in Jeff Bezos. My question, AJ, is: can you be too rich for the NFL? Is there a level of wealth like with Bezos where the other owners say, you dwarf all of us and we're not comfortable with that?
If it was baseball, I would say. If it's Major League Baseball, I would say yes. Any sport with a hard cap or even a soft cap, not so much. I mean, you can build a very nice stadium and draw a lot of fans to it. You can make more money that way, but you have to share a lot of that revenue, maybe outside luxury boxes. You have to share that revenue with other owners. What you can do is build this team back up to where it was when Dan Snyder bought it, which was a top 3 TV market, a top 3 in home attendance. they can build that back up again because they're down at the bottom of both right now. And that's one way you can increase revenue, increase value. I think you're buying a fixer-upper, which is hilarious. It's $6 billion for a fixer-upper, the most the sports franchises ever sold for. I mean, it's amazing. It's like there's gonna be so much work that needs to be done, and there's gonna be a honeymoon period. Everybody's gonna be loving Josh Harris probably throughout the season, going into 2024. But eventually, you're gonna have to make progress on the stadium and make progress with the winning team. And outside of a quarterback, I think they actually have a decent shot.
Does that honeymoon period extend to stadium deals, local government, everyone in the area immediately signing up to work with Josh Harris and his group just because it's not Daniel Snyder? This
is going to be huge. I think that's going to be a very big part of it. I think there's this is why this is good that he has experience in pro sports. He knows about marketing. He knows about sponsorship. He knows how to run a team. Snyder really never got that. He didn't put the emphasis in the right places because, the turnover and them bouncing a 50-50 raffle ticket last year, little things like that don't happen or should not happen outside of minor league sports. I mean, stuff like that we're talking about the NFL. This team makes money. Every team in NFL makes a lot of money. This team isn't making as much money as it should given the market size. But Harris knows the game. Harris knows the area, and Harris knows, how to put the people in the right spots and let them do their work. He's not going to be Jerry Jones. He's not going to be meddling like Dan Snyder did up until May. He stepped away the last couple of seasons, but he was so hands-on, especially early in his career, firing Norv Turner, running out Charlie Casserly, trying to bring Joe Gibbs back. There's so many things that he did that just set the team back every single step. So now they're going to be able to move beyond that. Now the fans want to change the name back or change the name to something else. That's going to be after the stadium and after getting the revenue streams up. I think the fans are going to be kind of demanding if there aren't already a name change.
AJ Perez, Front Office Sports senior reporter, covering this and so much more across the sports business aspect of what is I mean, the billions that are shared throughout this league compared to the other leagues are just crazy for the sales of these franchises. And we'll see a couple more maybe on the horizon the next several years. AJ, thanks so much for taking the time today, and we'll continue to have you pop back on as news progresses.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me back on.
Thanks, AJ.
AJ Perez there, Front Office Sports. So the Bezos deal, and he decides he's not going to submit a formal offer, right? Tillman Fertitta, he had bid $5.5 billion. He said, no, I'm not going any higher than that. He's not going to get into a bidding war, which is what Snyder wanted to turn this into. And Fertitta backed out or just kept his formal offer.
Yeah, that was it. He wasn't going high.
But by doing that, backed out.
Yep.
And then Harris said, hey, we're fully financed, here we go. And you have Bezos, who didn't make the formal offer because I think he also saw the troll job on the horizon.
Yeah, and I know Charlie Gasparino at Fox Business is reporting that it was possibly other NFL owners that did not want Jeff Bezos as an owner in the NFL. I asked AJ Perez about that, and he said likely not the case, given that it would be Major League Baseball that'd be more fearful. I can see it both ways. Like there's such an ego.
They just let a Walton in.
Huh?
They just let a Walton in.
Yeah, exactly. But also, Jeff Bezos, he's quite a bit more than even Rob Walton, I think.
Yeah, but Rob Walton's worth just net worth $55 billion.
They're both top 10.
Kroenke's second at 17.
I'm pretty sure they're both top 5 or 10 in the world.
But as far as gap is concerned, that's a massive gap compared to the next best, wealthiest owner.
I can see it one of two ways. The owners could say, this guy's more of a celebrity than me and has more money than me, and they've got such enormous egos, they don't like that. The other way I look at it is, boy, Jeff Bezos is now one of 32, just like me. We're on the same level. We have the same voting privilege, same rights, and we're going to make the same revenue in a lot of ways. So that could be appealing to someone also.
Again, Seattle's coming up after 2024, and then who knows what happens with the trust with the Bears on the horizon as well. A lot when it comes to the sale of the franchises, and the price tag only goes up. The Rays making history. Details next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
So the higher that number can be, the better you are with the committee. It's really that simple.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
He's got incredible taste in which media figures he listens to.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
Why are we going through Melania's goods? Don't make Brittany Griner out to be some type freedom fighter. Shouldn't there be a little bit of common sense? Let's roll them, big boy. What do you got?
They want to find someone to be the face of domestic terrorism, and they want it to be a right-wing Trump supporter. Don't let them entrap you into doing something dumb. But they were hyper-rational. They looked at the data, and they said it makes no sense for me to submit to this COVID shot mandate.
Get the shot or you can't go to your brother's wedding. Get the shot or you can't go to your daughter's graduation. Get the shot or else.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of the Southern winter.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Glad you're with us for the Thursday edition of Hot Mic across the OutKick Network, streaming live at OutKick.com and on YouTube. We hope you subscribe to the YouTube channel there.
Big shout out to Marty, who is a retired New York NYPD police officer who decided to take a little retirement trip to Nashville. And his first stop was right here at 6th and Peabody with Old Smoky Moonshine Yeehaw Beer to say hello to us. Daily viewer and listener of the show. We got a chance to meet. Great dude. And
really good dude.
We appreciate him. And I think he's about to have a moonshine tasting a mere steps away from this studio right now.
That's right. You have the kaleidoscope of colors with all the moonshine.
Yes.
Here, Chad.
Very spring-like in the tasting room today.
Chad, yesterday we started the show. The Rays were 11-0. And now they're 13-0. Between then and now, they've played twice. They've won both. They won 9-3 today in the final game against the Red Sox down in Tampa, and they tie the best Major League Baseball start in the post-1900 era. And
now they're one away from setting it, the new
that's
standard.
Right. One more win. They've won 11 of their games by at least 4 runs. I mean, this is just not like
it's everything. They hit for power, average, pitching is great. There's not a single weakness on this team so far.
13th consecutive win sets a new franchise record, of course. And they had actually won 12 straight back in 2004, which is, I mean, it's extremely hard to do on the daily regiment. But the way they're doing it is what's so impressive to me. They have more home runs than they have runs allowed. 32 to 30.
You know, your good teams will go on a tear at some point, during the season.
Yeah.
It might be 9, 10, 11 straight wins, whatever, at some point during the season. But that's usually June, July, August. That happens when you get your feet under you and things get rolling. It's so difficult to come out of the gates this way. Either this good or bad. On the flip side of it, it's tough to get started that way because everyone is feeling their way throughout the entire month of April in Major League Baseball. So to see this happen is incredible. And now we're one win away from history for the Tampa Bay Rays. Hutton, this is something I'll never forget. I'll remember, didn't the Rays start, some crazy amount of wins or whatever? I mean, even 13-0, I'm not going to forget now.
They trailed 3-1 today, and then they had a 7-run 5th inning and busted it wide open. So, what do you think the stream? They were. I saw a tweet. They were boasting, and they should, about the streaming numbers being up, like 125% year to year for watching their games during this start. But man, I mean, a day game on Thursday to tie the record. Hopefully, with the opportunity to pull off number 14, it would, get a well-attended game, which is normally not the case.
The underlying issue here is Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Rays are the second most likely team to relocate in Major League Baseball behind the A's. That all looks but like it's going to go to Vegas.
Yeah.
The A's will eventually, probably in the short term, move to Vegas. But the Rays, for years, I mean, attendance issues, the stadium they play in's a dump, and it's a great organization. They do it with not a huge – they don't go on spending sprees.
No.
They develop – what they do with their pitching staff, it's like they have unlocked some cheat code to make their guys' delivery and approach the game different and crafty. It's incredible. Their talent evaluation, the way they draft, a really good organization. And if that city can't pull it together in that ownership group, some other city, maybe Nashville, where we are right now, is going to get one heck of an organization and one heck of a team if that doesn't change.
Meanwhile, the Red Sox, they've lost 13 straight games at Tropicana Field. Also tough to do.
Very tough.
It's the environment.
And it's not like most people are saying, you better be ready for war when you head to the Trop.
No.
Right, that place, but the environment in the Trop is just through the roof. No one's saying that. So tough for the Red Sox.
They have, by the way, the Rays have they already have triple-digit hits this season. Second place, the Dodgers with 79 hits on the year, and the Rays.
That's remarkable.
I mean. I wonder, Davey, see if you can. Is there a list of the average game time for every franchise? Well, I know that pace of play is up 30 minutes, but as much as they get on base and score runs, they have to be the longest game.
Yeah, I'd like
day.
to know the top and the bottom. I want to know the longest game time team and the shortest team.
They've got to lead that.
Like, when you roll up to a Kansas City Royals game, you better be prepared for a 2-hour and 10-minute game. Whatever the team is that they're going really quick because their offense and maybe their pitching's pretty good too.
Chad, there's a Syracuse booster, a mega one, who's pulling money away from the university because he's not getting along with the chancellor. He's citing that as the reason. But in terms of what we see from like John Ruiz at Miami, that's what he could mean for Syracuse. And he's saying, hey, I'm not getting along with the chancellor. I'm taking my money. I'll find something else to do with it instead of help build back what Syracuse has the chance to do in the NIL space.
Yeah, Adam Weitzman, 54-year-old. He owns a scrap metal processing company in upstate New York. He's worth over $1 billion. He brings celebrities to the games. He's been seen with Tom Brady, Pete Davidson, Giannis at games. I'm looking at him with Carmelo Anthony and Odell Beckham Jr. and Jalen Hurts all visiting with him front row at Syracuse games.
And the chancellor doesn't like that?
My question is, Kent Syverud is the chancellor. I probably butchered the pronunciation. Don't care. This dude needs to get with it. I mean, how on earth, if you're the chancellor and you're a supporter of Syracuse and you give them money, are you not reaching out to your chancellor and saying, dude, swallow your pride? This guy's going to help Syracuse be relevant and win. I don't care what your issue is with him or him having celebrities at games. Make good. Make amends with this dude. Because clearly someone has been insulted, and it sounds like Weitzman has been insulted by this guy in some way and has basically caught wind that he's not welcome. And he's saying that, hey, I'll gladly not spend my money elsewhere.
Well,
if I'm not welcome, I didn't go to the school, but I'm a huge supporter, and I'm a fan of the school, and I give them money. So if that's the case, if you're the chancellor, the impetus is on this chancellor to make good with the money.
And he already had $2 million in NIL that he was helping
Again, make good with the money.
It's crazy.
I don't even know the entire backstory, and I fully blame the chancellor if all of this money is walking out the door at Syracuse.
Yeah, the only report, and it's through Weitzman, just from what I understand, hearing it from people at the university, he did not like the high-profile nature of the celebrities coming to games.
Why?
And the way I was discussing NIL with the media. But again,
Well, the chancellor's going to look real dumb when the new, whatever the reformation is with the NCAA in terms of NIL rules.
Yep.
And it's going to be even more lax, and people are going to be able to talk more and more about it. When that happens, the chancellor's going to feel pretty dumb that he let the money walk out the door.
I would think so. And then also, you got Boeheim and everything else leaving, too. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the program.
When I first saw this headline, I immediately thought, this guy's pissed off at the chancellor for how Boeheim was handled.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was because he doesn't like how high-profile the booster is.
Well, I wonder,
which is ridiculous.
But had this happened with Boeheim, is he the middleman? Does he smooth things over to where this doesn't happen?
Was he the guy, when Boeheim was there, was he the guy that could make sure the chancellor shut up about him? And now that he's gone, the protection is gone between the two, the buffer.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad. Because Syracuse, Chad, you mentioned them last fall or summer. You wrote a column about the NIL space and who could really
who could
move
rise
forward. Syracuse is on that list.
Yeah, Syracuse could be. I mean, it's the biggest. It could be the State University of New York, right? Like if you look at all of it in the city, throughout the state, this could be the representative for the state of New York on the national scene and a Northeast power. We've seen it in basketball throughout the years. Could be the case in football too. So you can't run the money off. And the new coach, I'm blanking on his name right now, the assistant who took over for Boeheim, one of your first steps as the new head coach, get the chancellor and this dude into a restaurant for dinner and drinks or something and smooth this over so Weitzman is back in the fold helping you secure top talent at Syracuse. For basketball, at the very least. And if you ever want to be relevant in football, he's going to have to help with football also. But basketball is one that they should have money being pumped into that program. They've shown they can win a national championship at Syracuse.
Yes.
So
with top talent, one and done.
What is the problem here? I mean, if I'm the head coach, I'm thinking, chancellor, we gotta bury the ego here a little bit and get our guy back on our team. This guy just wants us to win. Let's make sure he can help us do that.
Saquon Barkley's helping the Giants win. He's just not going to – he doesn't want to sign the franchise tag to play for the franchise money for running backs, which is roughly $10 million. And he wants a contract extension. They gave that extension to Daniel Jones, slapped the tag on Saquon, and they're trying to ride it out another year. And I think what the Giants are doing is why we're going to see the top-level running backs, even though the value of the running back has diminished, right? Because you can find guys for the new offense, the new era of offense, to fit as a piece instead of the what did Merrill Hodge call them? Factor backs back in the day?
Yep.
The volume carries. Not everybody gets the carries that Derrick Henry would receive. Saquon's one of them. But I think the importance of the first round, where maybe we see 2 running backs in the first round potentially in 2 weeks. You get the 5th-year option, and then you have control of that first round pick for 7 years if you choose, because you can tag the player twice. And so that's what we're seeing with the Giants. And, if you trade them, fine. And if not, you're going to keep them. And that's a lot of wear and tear for 7 years. And then you move on and you rinse and repeat. In theory.
Stellar Merrill Hodge reference, by the way.
The factor back.
Yeah. Was not expecting Merrill Hodge to be referenced in today's show, but I'm thrilled that he was.
Somewhere is tying a necktie right now.
I think you're crazy to give a long-term deal to a running back, even if they're as good as Saquon Barkley. I know this is a tough pill to swallow if you're as great of a running back as Barkley, but take the huge chunk of money on the franchise tag as much as you can and live with it. I get the desire to get that guaranteed money that you're going to get in a long-term contract locked up if you're going to go out and play a position where you're risking injury every time out this way. But if I'm running an organization, I'm in a front office, there's not a single running back to me that's worth it. I mean, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, 2 of the top ones. But, I mean, I could argue that Derrick Henry being locked up long-term isn't what's the best thing for the Titans or any organization. So I love these running backs. This is nothing against them. It is just simply a position that I'm not tying up long-term guaranteed money with huge salary cap hits with. I think it's proven time and time again, you do not need to do that to win a Super Bowl. You just don't.
And he's saying he's not going to sign the tag. We'll ask Armando about that moving forward. Armando's coming up in about 7 minutes or so. Chad, great press conference yesterday with Jeffrey Simmons. He gets the contract extension that he wanted. He was going into year number 5, going into year number 5, following a season where he could have said, hey, I demand an extension now based on the importance and value to the Titans' defensive front. I think he's the best player on their roster. And he ends up signing what is now a contract that makes him the second highest paid defensive lineman at his position to only Aaron Donald. Here is Jeffrey Simmons yesterday at the press conference announcing the contract extension.
I think, man, just from house to house, apartment to apartment, sharing a bed with my brother. Man, we good. It's just not, my kids, this generation wealth, as we call it, like, this is what I do it for, man. Every day I wake up, just think about them hard times where I know my mom didn't feel like it. And for some time I could be like, I'm hurting. But I think about my mom having raised 5 kids on her own. And for me to say, I don't want to do this, that's my motivation, my family. So, sorry about that, but man, this is, I'm grateful, I'm excited. I never saw myself wearing anything but the 2-tone blue other than holding up a Super Bowl ring and a gold jacket.
There's Jeffrey Simmons yesterday as he gets the big mega contracts where the Titans are investing on the defensive front. But Chad, the off-the-field issues that took place from the time he was in high school in that, I believe, right before he took the field for Mississippi State, where this was 2016, where he's on video repeatedly punching a female in the face, and how he rehabilitated and ended up being one of the best players at his position in the SEC. Now he's a team captain. And whenever the Titans made the decision on whether or not they were going to draft him, Titans owner Amy Adams Strunk and him, they spoke. And she spoke at the press conference whenever he was drafted, vouching for him, saying that he's not going to let me down. He sent her a text when the deal was finally complete, thanking her for taking a chance, trusting him, and she sent back, thanks for not letting me down. You promised me, and we're glad you're here. Jeff is a great guy, and knowing the details and the history of what he did versus how he handles it now, night and day. Night and day. And great teammate as well. He played through injuries. He's referencing the ankle issue where he could have gone to injured reserve, didn't. It was a bad team last year during a losing streak whenever he was faced with playing through all that pain.
And I know in the press conference he also said that last season, right after the firing of John Robinson, Amy Adams Strunk, the team owner, came to him and said, we're going to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be taken care of, and that he believed her, and we see the result. Good for Jeffrey Simmons. Good for the Titans to lock up a foundational piece at an important position. And this is a true American success story.
Yes.
I mean, I love hearing the tale of a guy who had nothing growing up, who had to bounce from home to home, apartment to apartment, shared a bed with his brother, and becomes a guy now who's got his grandkids are rich all of a sudden. This is what's cool about our country and the possibilities within it. And Jeffrey Simmons is realizing that American dream because of his talent and work. He was blessed with natural ability with his body and his athleticism, and he's worked hard at it. And now he's got generational wealth. That to me is the biggest takeaway from all this. Very cool to see that, and very cool to see his level of appreciation and respect and emotion for the fact that he has gone from someone who was dirt poor to someone who is filthy rich, and now his kids will have a better life and their kids will have a better life. Really cool to see.
Yep, and he lives it every day. I mean, it's a great success story. Coming up, Armando Salguero will join us. We'll continue with the NFL discussion. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Also, the Commanders have new ownership. There's a lot to dive into. Armando Salguero, our NFL reporter at OutKick, joins us next on Hot Mic.
What is your most controversial opinion?
I think girls with hairy armpits should be eradicated from the face of this earth.
I agree.
Thank you so much.
Hottest take is that In-N-Out is overrated.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Because their French fries taste like cardboard, and they get soggy too quick if you get them animal style, and their burgers are just like always dry. So it's gross.
Hot dog is not a sandwich
Why not?
because it's not two separate pieces of bread.
What's your hottest take?
Normalize blacking out.
ChatGPT is going to take over the world.
Hate Duke University. I hope they never win a game in the history of life. I hate everything about them. That's my take.
Why is that your hot take? Why do you feel so strongly about that?
Air of arrogance amongst people I'm friends with, and I want to punch them in the face often.
I believe there shouldn't be any weight classes in fighting, UFC, boxing, just to let the best fighter fight.
I'm a Packers fan. I think it'd be great if Aaron Rodgers leaves. It'd be really funny if he demanded all this stuff from the Jets and then stayed.
LeBron James is not the go to basketball.
My hot take is that the University of Tennessee is hot trash, and so is the SEC. Go Big Ten.
I hate when people slow down when it's a green light and they think it's going to turn yellow. So they slow down anticipating that it's going to turn like red.
People do that?
Yeah, at least in Canada.
He's from Canada. I asked people from Canada for their hot takes. They don't have any. They don't have any.
I'm not a controversial person. To each their own, I guess.
Hot takes from Canada.
Snapchat is cringy. Do not ask for my Snapchat if you are over 18 years old.
I think a celebrity that got canceled and shouldn't have is Hayley Williams from Paramore, simply because she said a derogatory term in her song Misery Business from like 15 years ago. 15 years later, they decide she's a criminal? I don't know about that.
I think the Beatles are overrated.
I'm here in Nashville. My hot take is that country music sucks.
Taylor Swift is overrated.
Swift is better country, for sure.
Cowboy boots aren't cool.
We are far from the most racist country in the world.
I'm so ready for the new president.
Here we go. Joe Biden is a terrible president. Trump 2024.
Hot Mic rolls on from 6th and Peabody. That's the home of Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine.
We're home. Our home, too.
Putting Withrow here. And Armando Salguero joins us. Time to talk NFL headlines, NFL draft 2 weeks away. He's got the league covered at OutKick.com. Armando, the Commanders have new ownership with Josh Harris and his group. Which owner or maybe just member of the league is celebrating most, and what do you think the toast will be like later whenever they have the ownership meeting again and everyone says a word about Dan Snyder?
Well, gentlemen, this is kind of a two-edged sword, okay? Because on the one hand, the Washington Commanders are going to be sold for $6 billion plus.
Yeah.
And, that's good news for everybody involved in the business, because as the prices go up, that means everybody's prices are going up. So that's number one. Number two, obviously, if the Washington Commanders under new ownership become an organization that is way less likely to embarrass the NFL and its ownership, that's good news for them. And if the Washington Commanders under new ownership becomes an organization that clearly is one of the better organizations in the NFL, that's good news for everyone. But under Dan Snyder, the Washington Commanders have been kind of easy pickings for a while. They haven't drafted great. They haven't played great. They haven't been great on the field or off. And so suddenly the easy mark that they have kind of sort of been mediocre at best over the 24 years where Dan Snyder was the owner, that could go away. And all of a sudden, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys are looking around, and the New York Giants are looking around and going, hey, we kind of like these easy 1 or 2 victories a year against the Don't Call Me Redskins anymore. So again, good management is good for the NFL until the game starts.
I think it's hard for maybe even, people under 30 years old to understand the powers of the Don't Call Me Redskins, as you called them, because we still think of them as the old Washington Redskins in their heyday. And this was, it's crazy when you hear this in value. It's a top 5 or 6 NFL franchise when you see the figure of $6 billion, Armando. That even Daniel Snyder couldn't run this thing completely into the ground, and that it's still a very valuable commodity, maybe shocks people that are of a certain age when they don't understand the history of this organization.
Well, the old Washington Redskins were a legacy NFL franchise. They were the team that, oftentimes people called Dallas America's team. Well, this is the team that was in the nation's capital and oftentimes spanked America's team for everybody. They won 3 Super Bowls under Joe Gibbs, who was pretty good at what he did. He did it with 3 different quarterbacks. They were always in the Super Bowl or vying for it. They and the San Francisco 49ers for a long time in the 80s were a team to be reckoned with. And look, it doesn't mean that they were always great, but they were always in the conversation and always relevant and always on national television. I remember watching them on Thanksgiving against the Dallas Cowboys once upon a time when Clint Longley came on and beat them at the last minute with a bomb to Drew Pearson. And it was at that moment, at that time, the highest rated NFL broadcast in the regular season. And so, you have that kind of legacy. Dan Snyder has done amazing things to embarrass that legacy. True story. One time when I was covering the Miami Dolphins, they played the old Redskins and at their new park, and we went there, and this was, I guess, early 2000s, and they didn't have wireless internet yet, but they had the cords. Most teams had wireless internet already. They only had the cords, and any writer who didn't bring his own cable, they would gladly sell you one so that you could cover the game for $75.
Oh my gosh.
4 easy payments, I'm sure.
Most teams were giving away their Wi-Fi as they do now because it's Wi-Fi, for God's sakes. But the Washington Redskins of 2004 and 5 would sell you the cable for $75 because they didn't have Wi-Fi.
And Armando, we'll segue to one really terrible radio booth to a great one in a moment in Baltimore. But the radio booth at the stadium is in the top corner of the end zone, so you can't you can barely see what's happening, at the 50 coming your way. And then on the other end, you have no idea if the team scored or not. Either you don't know if the guy was tackled for a 3-yard gain or a 1-yard loss based on the vantage point of the play-by-play announcer.
Yeah, so the thinking now is that Washington, obviously the franchise needs a new stadium, right? Because that place is a dump.
It's awful.
It is terrible. And so new ownership that hasn't alienated government and or investors, both private and public, would supposedly have a better chance of getting that done than what Daniel Snyder did.
Baltimore, by the way, a fantastic stadium. Lamar Jackson. Here's the good news, bad news. We'll start this the same way we did with Snyder. Good news is Odell Beckham Jr. Is great friends with Lamar Jackson, and it sounds like Lamar was on board whenever Odell signed there for his $15 million plus. Bad news is Odell Beckham Jr. is his number one wide receiver right now. They've got work to do to enhance the wide receiver weapons for Lamar Jackson if and when he comes back.
More bad news, not an awesome wide receiver draft.
Yeah, that's right.
More bad news, they don't have a ton of cap space to find somebody else who's not available anyway. And so DeAndre Hopkins to Baltimore is not happening, folks. By the way, this is where in the movies, the next scene is DeAndre Hopkins in Baltimore and Armando going, oh!
Well, hey, speaking of Hopkins, he's now rumored to be in with the Jets. The Jets are interested. I mean, what are the all-star when they lost out on Odell Beckham Jr., they've now turned their attention to DeAndre Hopkins?
The Jets don't need DeAndre Hopkins. They don't really need Odell Beckham Jr. Garrett Wilson is a budding superstar. Alan Lazard is underrated. He knows, Aaron Rodgers well. They're gonna sign Randall Cobb. It's gonna be fine. The Jets are gonna have a fine receiver core. They just need to get around to the idea of making that trade for that, Aaron Rodgers.
Do you buy that? I know there's reports out now that they're not budging, right? Neither side is budging, and it's looking. Do you buy any of this up until one of them really has to budge on the night of the first round or the day of the second round when that's going to happen?
Right. So let me take you guys behind the scene of how the sausage is made.
I do love sausage, so this will be good.
Yes, I've been part of a lot of sausage making. Also, unfortunately, a part of a lot of sausage eating. But this is a fact. So two teams are negotiating. The team in City A picks out a beat writer or a national writer and says, hey, let us whisper to you in confidence, anonymously, that we're not budging from what is going on. In City B, similar team in City B picks out a beat writer or national guy and says, hey, let us whisper to you that anonymously, don't mention our names, we're not budging either. And so what you have is reports of we're not budging because both teams want to have a narrative and a stance, both privately between each other and publicly with their fan base. And so that the other team knows we really mean it. What this all means is that when there's a deadline and both teams look at the facts and look at reality and decide this is, just the line in the sand that we can't cross, they'll get it done. And Aaron Rodgers will play for the New York Jets and it'll be done. And the Jets will give up a second round pick this year and more next year on a conditional basis. I don't know if that's a second rounder or a third rounder. We'll see. I know that the Jets aren't wanting to give up a first rounder at any point in this entire conversation, but they might if Aaron Rodgers decides, hey, I'm not only going to play this year and next year, but the year after that too. So we'll see.
Armando Salguero with us. Joe Mixon, low production recently. He's got a high cap number coming up. And Samaje Perine just signed with the Denver Broncos. I bring him up because I wonder if we're going to see Joe Mixon back in Cincinnati because a road rage incident where he was originally charged with menacing, which is a misdemeanor. He allegedly pointed a gun at a woman in a road rage incident back in January. Cincinnati police, they initially dropped the charges. Now they're back. And we certainly know the history of Joe Mixon at Oklahoma. All that being said, what do you think the Bengals do at the position?
Well, from a salary cap standpoint, it makes sense for them to move on because what you have is a player whose production, despite the fact that he's playing with arguably, a top 3 quarterback in the NFL and the best wide receiver core in the NFL, was diminished last year. He was under 4 yards a carry on average. And that doesn't make any sense because typically defenses back off at the line of scrimmage in the tackle box when they have worries about the team passing. And that means that the running back has to feed. And Joe Mixon didn't feed. He only ate 800 yards, which is bad in the NFL. Again, from a salary cap standpoint, they can save $10 million if they cut him. They can save $20 million over the next 2 years if they cut him. And they do have bills coming due. They do have to sign Joe Burrow to an extension. Jamar Chase is coming down the turnpike as well. He's going to need an extension. They haven't figured out the T. Higgins thing. So there are high-priced items happening that would seem to make a running back kind of a luxury. The problem is they don't have anybody to replace him right now. So we're going to have to see what they do in the draft. If they get somebody of stature in the draft, if they draft a running back early, it doesn't bode well for Joe Mixon. If also this aggravated menacing charge turns into something serious, as in some sort of conviction, or even a pre-trial negotiation diversionary program where he agrees to do stuff and pay fines, that puts him in the crosshairs of the NFL personal conduct policy. And once again, possibly having to miss games, which once again makes him less valuable to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, I think initially I thought, if they part ways with him, they can potentially be a landing spot for Ezekiel Elliott. But in a column you wrote for OutKick, the Bengals are lukewarm on that idea for exactly what you're talking about for the cap space, right? It's much more affordable just to grab a guy in the draft.
Yeah, and the reason for that is, I think I said that Joe Mixon averaged 3.9 yards a carry last year. Ezekiel Elliott averaged 3.8 yards a carry last year. And he also wants to be paid. And so, yeah, I'm lukewarm to regressing for the same amount of money. And I'm sure the Bengals would be too. Obviously, it's more complicated than that. And there are different reasons for it. But look, let's all agree right here. Let's have a hot mic confab.
Okay.
And all agree. You draft a running back, you use him up.
Yes.
And then out he goes when his rookie contract ends, unless his name is Jim Brown or Barry Sanders. Otherwise, he can be replaced.
Notice he didn't say Saquon Barkley as a part of that with what's going on in New York. Small sample size, but Atlanta seems sure about Desmond Ridder. How sure?
Stupid sure. It's like, come on.
I know.
They know something we don't, Armando. They've seen something we haven't.
I guess.
They watched him back up Mariota the majority of the year.
Right, exactly. And he started 4 games. They won 2. They lost 2. They were never really relevant with him or without him, really, last year. The problem is this. They have seen something that they really think is good. And so they've been very veiled about their interest in drafting a quarterback. I know they had Will Levis in today for a pre-draft visit, but that I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's the direction they're going to go. I do know this. They've done significant work in improving their defense and really their overall team. They've gotten better, the Atlanta Falcons, this offseason. The problem with that is they've gotten better, but we don't know if the quarterback spot is any better. And we do know this, a team that gets better but has a middling to bad quarterback, Tennessee Titans.
Yep.
They have struggles. They have a hard time finding the new guy because they're never bad enough to draft high enough to get a star, and they're never terrible enough. They're never good enough to actually be relevant and win a championship. They get caught in that middle ground that is the worst thing that you can be in the NFL. You either want to be really good or really terrible, because really good, you're really good, and really terrible, you have a chance to get really good. In the middle, you're just middling.
It is amazing, though. Like, I'm looking at their depth chart. Some players just find a way to become a storyline in October and November in the league. Taylor Heineke is that dude. He's their backup quarterback right now. It is rinse and repeat from Washington all over again in Atlanta with Desmond Ridder as their starter.
Absolutely. And what does it tell you? Eventually teams figure it out that, no, we can't continue to do this cycle, this rinse and repeat thing.
Yeah.
It's bad overall. But then somebody else does the same thing. And back to Tennessee, the Miami Dolphins, after 7 years, decided, no, we can't do this. We can't keep waiting on Ryan Tannehill. So what happens now? What year is this for Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee? Is it year 5?
I think it's 6 now. I think he's going into 6, I believe, because they've extended him once.
Rinse and repeat. Never terrible. Ryan Tannehill is a solid NFL quarterback, but never great.
Yep.
And specifically, never great when it counts the most, which is when the playoffs begin.
Going into 5, by the way. Going into year 5.
Okay.
I was off by a year, the 2018. And then 2019 happened, and they gave him the big money. Hey, Chad, maybe they'll just have Cordero Patterson play quarterback. He does everything else.
You just go back to the single wing. That's always an option if you're Atlanta.
Yeah. I'm sure, targets like Drake London and Kyle Pitts will be thrilled if they pass up on one of these young QBs in the draft.
The only way it really works out is if Arthur Smith is a genius and everybody else is a dumbhead.
Yeah.
And Desmond Ridder is, a star in the making. And he did actually see something that no one else saw.
Yeah. And he's a very good offensive mind. But see, that and final 30 seconds, unfortunately, but that's why Lamar Jackson made so much sense to me in Atlanta. I think it just fits perfectly with that offense because it's run-oriented anyway. They right now, Armando, they have 2 fullbacks on their roster, if that tells you anything. The fit was perfect. The money wasn't perfect, of course, but apparently Desmond Ridder is. So we'll see what happens in the ATL. Armando, thank you, man.
My pleasure, gentlemen.
Thanks, Armando.
NFL draft discussion next week with Armando, 2 weeks away. Chad, gear up. Will Levis making the rounds, man. In Nashville earlier this week. Was with what? Indy.
Good for Will Levis.
Green Bay. Then now in Atlanta today. Coming up, an all-you-can-eat buffet. I have seen Chad. How many hot dogs did you eat in one sitting? Well, we'll save that. We'll try to do the calculation. I've seen Chad devour a platter. I was going to say a plate. Platter of hot dogs. But there's an NFL prospect who puts us all to shame. That's next on Hot Mic.
always been a very, very fond of Rob Manfred. I got to know Rob very closely during the labor negotiations when I was a player rep for the 10 years of my career. Always respected him. Always thought he loved the game. Some of the stuff that's happened in the last couple of years makes me question that. But again, I know the guy, so I think he's trying to come from a good place, even if he makes decisions I don't agree with. However, if you're curious as to the financial state of the game, when the manager, the commissioner, or the owner of a company says something in the media that just kind of pisses all over the quality of the product, you know that they're in a financially good place. Rob Manfred talking about analytics, and he's not wrong in a couple of senses this way. So he was asked about it, and he's talking about it on record, saying analytics is an arms race to nowhere. Claims that the marginal value of investing in analytics has never been lower, and he's making that claim. Franchises are pouring resources into something which has little return on investment, little ROI, and that is actively damaging the game. Manfred said, and he's right with this comment, once everybody's doing it, that little margin that maybe you're getting, I'm sure that whatever that margin was at one point in time, whatever it is today, it's sure as heck is not worth the damage that was done to the game over a period of time. Okay. So I'm probably going to get bleeped here in the next couple seconds. But this, to me, is a politician complaining on Twitter. And my response is, you're the commissioner. Why are you complaining about your game? You're in charge. Shut up and do something. Why, as a politician, are you on Twitter complaining about the things I'm complaining about? I voted you in to fix it. Don't complain to me. Fix it or shut the hell up. Okay, I'm done. I was doing analytics. And you'll laugh at this, Bill, but in 1997, I thought I came up with this new stat. I said, batting average is really irrelevant. When a guy's hitting 302 and his on-base percentage is 302, I mean, wow, that's not good. But I thought, you know what? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. Those two combined might be a cool number. So I had OB percentage. This in my notebook, it was OB percentage plus SLG percentage equals, like, I had it like danger factor or something. I ranked hitters that way. And unfortunately, I didn't copyright that because it became OPS. But analytics are, I think they're essential to succeed to a degree. I think they're an excuse for other people, and I think they're a reason that other people are great. I think you look at Gwynn, you look at all the great players of my era, they were doing analytics. They were just doing it a different way. Maddox was probably, he understood. And I think like I did, I didn't care what your average was. What I cared was your on-base percentage, your first pitch swing percentage, what your strikeout to walk ratio was. What did you hit with runners in scoring position? What was your swing percentage with 2 strikes? And then as I got older and I developed a sample set by facing the same guy 25 times, those numbers would come to fruition. They would be, and I learned that my sabermetric data versus hitters was different than the rest of the league.
Nick Saldiveri from Old Dominion, all-you-can-eat buffet. Crushed it.
Impressive work.
So he and some of the top offensive linemen in the draft, Peter Skronsky from Northwestern, you've got Jalen Duncan from Maryland and others. They went and hit up a buffet, Chad. The goal was simple, see how many pounds you could gain in one sitting. And they weighed in before and after. And he gained 10 pounds. 9.5 pounds
to be exact.
In one sitting. He was weighed in at 317.4 pounds and then weighed out at 326.9.
This is the equivalent of lapping the competition when you are nearly 3 pounds above second place in weight gain. Peter Skronsky of Northwestern gained 6.7 pounds.
Now, look at Avila from TCU.
Jalen Duncan, 6. And then Avila lost weight the next day. Weighed himself the next day, and he lost weight. He must have had an obstructed bowel of some sort that was removed.
He's also
with this eating, with this feast.
He's also
and then he lost weight because of that.
The biggest dude to begin with at 339 pounds.
Yeah, incredible. Incredible work by these guys.
Chad, I've seen you down hot dogs.
Yeah, I was challenged in a hot dog eating contest, and over the course of a show, I think I ate 27.
Over
the course of one show.
It was over 25.
I can destroy a buffet of any kind. Quick story. So I'm 14 years old. My buddy Jake Mingeldorf, my best friend, best man at my wedding. So I'm hanging out with him, and I'd go on an annual trip to Florida with his family. And part of this trip was we'd go to an all-you-can-eat buffet. Well, my friend Jake is the pickiest eater on the planet and will eat about 4 different foods, and that's it. His younger sister was the same way. So his mom and dad take us, teenage kids, to the all-you-can-eat buffet. And I look over at one point during the meal after I go back to the buffet for a 4th time and another plate. And I could almost see a tear in my buddy's father's eye. And he just started shaking his head and said, all these years I've been taking my family to the buffet. And all these years I've been on the losing end of it. And finally, I take Chad here and we clean out the house. I feel like I got my money's worth and then some because of this young man right here and all the food I've seen him eat tonight. And I almost teared up as well. It was an emotional time because I realized I did, in fact, take the house that night. And if you bring me to an all-you-can-eat buffet, they're losing. This is not a casino trip where you're probably going to lose. You're definitely losing if you charge me any amount of money at an all-you-can-eat buffet and I'm hungry. I will eat more than the money that I paid.
Anytime I think of a buffet, I think of our buddy Hosey.
Oh, yeah.
Who, the buffet he would frequent would charge by the pound. And
it was a breakfast buffet.
And he went in
Shoney's breakfast
and
buffet.
would get plates to go.
You could get to go from this buffet.
To go. Plates of nothing but bacon.
And the bacon doesn't weigh much, so he got just boxes of under the weight limit amounts of bacon.
No, but it was all you can eat, though. So he just, like, anything they had, he just cleaned them out and paid like $5 for it. Because they changed the rule soon after. Hosey still probably has some of that
I don't know about
bacon.
you, but I'm hungry now.
Yeah. I'm tired of Dan Snyder trolling us. Hopefully Adam Schefter
Don't
is
tease
incorrect.
me with bacon.
Details next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
So the higher that number can be, the better you are with the committee. It's really that simple.
You gotta lean into the turns.
You really got to lean into the turns.
He's got incredible taste in which media figures he listens to.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
Why are we going through Melania's goods? Don't make Brittany Griner out to be some type freedom fighter. Shouldn't there be a little bit of common sense? Let's roll them, big boy. What do you got?
They want to find someone to be the face of domestic terrorism, and they want it to be a right-wing Trump supporter. Don't let them entrap you into doing something dumb. But they were hyper-rational. They looked at the data, and they said it makes no sense for me to submit to this COVID shot mandate.
Get the shot or you can't go to your brother's wedding. Get the shot or you can't go to your daughter's graduation. Get the shot or else.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of the Southern Legend.
Just like that, final hour is here on the Thursday edition. Coming up in 20 minutes on Hot Mic, Cynthia Freeland, NFL Network, NFL.com. She'll be with us, talk NFL draft, her top prospects, mock draft, and more. Chad, show flying by. And we started by saying, hey, the sale is happened. It's Front Office Sports is saying it's all but signed. They've got a sign on the $6 billion line for Josh Harris and his ownership group to take ownership of the Washington Commanders from Dan Snyder. But here's Adam Schefter. And I hope it's just because Steve Apostolopoulos wanted me to say his name one more time. But Josh Harris.
We got it in, Steve.
The group has reached a preliminary agreement to buy the Commanders from Daniel Snyder for $6.05 billion per sources. It is not exclusive. The deal is not signed, and the group, led by Steve Apostolopoulos, still is involved in the process. That was tweeted nearly an hour ago from Shefty.
I don't know how to take this news. I mean, it's a pretty definitive report that it's done. The bid has been accepted. And now...
And correct me if I'm wrong.
Reached a preliminary agreement.
And correct me if I'm wrong, though.
But it's not exclusive. The deal is not signed.
The only official bid with ownership approval, meaning like the vetted group, is through Josh Harris. That was reported yesterday. And Bezos was contemplating whether or not he was going to get back in on it or not.
This is... It just stinks to high heaven of... Well, you've signed the bid. I haven't signed it yet, and I'm holding out in the last minute to see if Steve Apostolopoulos
there you go.
is going to give us more money for the team. So this is sort of the last hour.
And he's the
let's
Canadian.
See if he's gonna up the bidding at all.
He's the Canadian billionaire.
Yeah.
Mogul of something.
Right. I mean, I get so annoyed.
AJ Perez, by the way, refuted this 3 weeks ago.
I hate how every report now has to be refuted with a half report. Hey, it's a preliminary agreement, guys. It's not completely signed. The ink is not dry yet.
Well,
and this other guy is also still putting together. And I'm just
what this is.
What
this sounds like is like the Monday when free agency's open but not official. And we've known for 3 days by the time the new league year begins on that Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern where players are going to sign, and then they actually sign. This feels like that time frame before you can actually sign with the team for Josh Harris.
Adam Schefter is very, very good. So I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm about to say. But this also is just a look at me report.
Well, it's also
because it's a way to tweet something out that even if it's already done or in the process of being done, he's not wrong. There's no way he can be wrong in this.
Well,
so either it is being signed and it's being done, and it's done just like Front Office Sports was saying, and everyone else has reported, or it's not done and it goes back to Apostolopoulos, and then Adam Schefter looks like a genius. But either way, he's protected. Because you start with a preliminary agreement is done, but there's still someone else involved in the process.
I'm reading the most recent report now from Front Office Sports, and the way it's worded is very similar. Tentative deal to acquire the Washington Commanders. So, but AJ Perez joined us earlier in the show. If you missed it, you can go back on YouTube, subscribe while you're there, and on the OutKick channel, AJ said, yeah, it's done. It's just they've got to sign. They haven't signed it yet. But, Chad, this goes back to what you said about an hour ago. With Daniel Snyder, the deal's not signed.
Yeah,
if you have someone come over the top and you start the bidding process, you can have two preliminary deals and you can have an exclusive negotiation with both.
I watched recently this movie Tetris that's on Apple TV Plus. Terrific. Highly recommend. And there's a scene in it where this big business guy, they have an agreement and a deal signed, and then he informs them, no, you signed it, I didn't. So it's not done yet because I didn't sign it on my end. We agreed to a deal, and you signed the document, but I haven't yet, so I can go back to someone else. This seems like the exact same storyline. Daniel Snyder is saying, we agreed to something, deal is done, but I haven't signed it yet. So I'm going back to Steve A. up in Manitoba in Canada, and he's going to give me more money now. But in reality, I think this is Adam Schefter just trying to be a part of the story. I really do. I think the deal is going to get done.
Salt Lake City is trying to be a part of the Major League Baseball story whenever they expand. Nashville's in the mix for an expansion team. Chad, I believe Portland is another city that is seeking to be a part of the MLB expansion whenever they choose to move past 30. We know Vegas is getting a team, but it's more likely the relocated A's there. The Rays, who have won 13 straight games now, tying the record for the most wins to begin a season. They're going to be on the move at some point. But Salt Lake wants the expansion team whenever they expand past 30 to 32.
Well, it's a new city. I mean, you had Rob Manfred during an interview at the All-Star game a couple of years ago list cities. The cities he talked about were Charlotte, Portland, Nashville, Montreal,
right? Yeah.
Vegas.
Oh, and Charlotte too, yeah.
I may have added Portland to that. I know Vegas, Montreal, Nashville, Charlotte were definitely mentioned. Now Salt Lake City would be another contender for a baseball team. I mean, I guess it makes sense. You know, you're going to be putting. It would be a little bit odd to. Vegas is definitely the front runner that's going to get one eventually. So you're putting two teams all of a sudden in similar part of the country with Salt Lake City and Vegas. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense as much as any of the other ones.
They're AAA city currently, just like Nashville.
Yeah, we had Kurt Schilling on, asked him about Montreal, and he said he does not buy that one bit, that they're a viable market for a return to Major League Baseball. So, I mean, what are the most likely candidates? To me, it's in order right now: Vegas, Nashville, And with this report, I'd probably throw Salt Lake City into the mix at number 3.
Not Charlotte.
Of the most likely to get one. Not Charlotte.
So Salt Lake, proximity is interesting there. And the report, the conversations with the report we're referencing at ESPN.com, conversations with Major League Baseball through Salt Lake City happened over a year ago about this. About the same time we started to hear rumblings here about the ownership.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be
City Stars.
It'd be interesting because you suddenly have almost like a Mountain West conference of Major League Baseball with the Rockies in Denver, a team in Vegas, a team in Arizona, and now a team north in Salt Lake City, all right there vying for interest in a part of the country that was desolate for years and years of Major League Baseball until the Rockies were an expansion team in the early 90s. And then shortly after that, the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
And then now you're looking at possibly 2 more teams going to that, mountain region of the country.
And as far as market size is concerned, Salt Lake's larger than 4 or 5 of the current Major League cities. Kansas City, San Diego, Milwaukee, and
Salt Lake is
Cincinnati.
larger than San Diego and Kansas City? That's interesting.
Market, just the media market, I'm saying.
It is incredible how when you name a city to a Major League Baseball fan, they immediately shut it down and say, oh, they can't support a Major League Baseball team. And I think, well, Milwaukee does.
Yeah.
You look at some markets, and the response is, well, because they've had a team. They're conditioned to it. They support it because there's a history there. And I think, well, if your game and product is good, and people know Major League Baseball teams, and you go to a thriving market and city, it should work with the right venue. I don't look at it like, well, they've got a history of it, so they're going to – Cincinnati's another one I think about. Well, Cincinnati has a team. Why can't Nashville have a team? Well, Cincinnati's been around since the 1800s. I understand that, the historical aspect of it, but you can't tell me that a Major League Baseball team could not work in Nashville or Vegas or Salt Lake City, as this report states, or another market. If the game is good – if the ownership group is good, if you build a good venue in the right place, it's going to work. I firmly believe that. And the reason Tampa doesn't work from a fan base standpoint is because the team plays in a decrepit old indoor stadium in a nice weather city in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, they got the stadium.
That's really it. Why do you have an indoor stadium in Tampa, of all places? That should be at worst a retractable roof, newer venue, right? When it gets really hot. But, I mean,
and even if you have poor ownership, your franchise is worth over $1 billion. Yeah. The worst in the league is Miami. They're valued the least. And second to last is Oakland with the A's. But they're still over $1 billion in value. But isn't it crazy that a Miami franchise is last in the evaluation from Forbes?
That fan base is non-existent. I mean, the state of Florida for baseball, incredible in the talent that state produces and the year-round opportunities for kids to play the game growing up, and also remarkable because both teams have no fans. It is such a transient population of New York Yankees fans in South Florida.
Yeah.
For both of them. It's
that's right.
People who have flocked to South Florida that like anything other than the Rays and the Marlins.
And then they even had the captain with all the Yankees fans there. They had Jeter come in, and that didn't work.
No.
Marlins aren't leaving, though.
I don't think so, but, I mean, it's a miserable experience. I mean, turn on the TV and watch a game in Miami. It's awful.
Well,
it's terrible. And also, by the way, they've won two World Series. They've geared up twice and won a World Series and then blown the team up and then built it up again.
And Madeline.
Yeah.
I mean, I should tie him in there, too, with what they tried. Chad, Warner Brothers Discovery, they are saying they're going to be out of the regional network sports business within the year. They have a 30% stake in Root Sports, and they told Front Office Sports that they have 3 regional sports networks and then Root Sports as well, and they're going to be out. The way of the regional sports network is over.
The bubble has burst. It's like the .com bubble. This is the regional sports TV network that bubble has burst now.
And if you look at what that affects, I mean, that's NBA, NHL, and
MLB.
2024 is Major League Baseball for them at the final year of their deal. But the transition to now Major League Baseball taking over as long as they get the blackout rule right, they can really make a huge haul with this if they take everything under the same umbrella.
Yeah. So Google owns YouTube, correct?
Yes.
There's a real opportunity here for YouTube TV to become the main provider of television to a lot of people. I mean, you could take ownership of live sports with NHL, NBA, and Major League Baseball in many markets. The same way they went out and bid top dollar for NFL Sunday Ticket, where you have to go there to watch those games. You could get a lot of baseball fans or NBA fans or NHL fans going and subscribing to either YouTube TV to a package that includes their team or to specifically watch their team's games through YouTube TV. We've been talking about the streaming wars and the different players that could be involved, and Apple will keep coming up with Major League Baseball because of what they've done with Major League Soccer and putting all the games there. I'd watch out for YouTube with the backing of Google to take over where the regional sports television bubble has burst.
But the regional sports networks, so they sold for what, $10 billion a few years back?
I don't know.
I think it was $10 billion. Bally, I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
well,
now
Bally spent a lot and lost a lot.
$10 billion, and from Murdoch, I believe.
And they filed bankruptcy.
And then quickly bankrupt. We've got Google and / YouTube. They're paying the NFL $2 billion a year for that rights package. And, I mean, it's going to be hard to make a profit on that. We went through the pricing earlier this week. But that's the real – so at what point do you have to get, if you're YouTube and Google, to say, you know what, everybody else is out. They've been belly up on the money they're spending on the other sports. At what point do you say, you know what, we're going to buy in? And what price does it need to be, Chad, where Major League Baseball just doesn't take it under their umbrella and charge that flat monthly fee or whatever it might be? Or game. Oh, you can get the game a la carte if you want.
It's just a lot of work that goes into that and a lot of cost if you take it in-house. If you're Major League Baseball, the far better option for them is to get a YouTube, Google, to give them a ton of money for their games.
Correct me if I'm wrong. MLB TV, but 14 teams right now are underneath that regional sports network umbrella. And then the other franchises are under the MLB umbrella currently anyway. I don't know. I think their product is way different to me than like the season package for NHL or NBA, right? Because you can.
If you're YouTube and you want everyone to cut the cord, right? You want everyone to come and get their television needs through you and package through you. One way to do that, you're going to lose a lot of money in the beginning, just like they are with the NFL. But go and get live sports rights and make the sports fan that wants to watch their team live come to you. So then they're getting rid of their cable package through AT&T or DirecTV or whatever it may be, and they're going to you, and maybe they stick around and like what they see with that, and they get all their television through you. So there's an opportunity with the amount of money that Google has in-house to just spend, and take over the market and get people to cut the cord and go to them for all of their live TV needs. Not a streamer. They stream, but it's live streaming and getting channels live through YouTube. It's an opportunity for them. That's all I'm saying. I have no knowledge that they're in the bidding or anything, but if they're doing this with the Sunday Ticket, why not go into baseball, hockey, NBA also?
Chad, a drunk fan attacked the mascot at the Rockies and Cardinals game. Got some. You've got Dinger here is the mascot's name, and a drunk fan jumps up on top of the dugout and just tackles him. Now, if I were at this game, I would think that's staged.
Yeah, I would think that's a bit. It's a bit that they. I don't. What's really disappointing in that are the three guys that are just drinking and talking to each other while a mascot's getting attacked right in front of them. They have no idea to even look up and see it.
No, if that happens in front of me, I'm thinking it's staged. I'm thinking that's staged to be like the mascot's going to get the better end of it at the end, and you're going to find out that the guy's the fan of the opposite team or something.
It's such odd behavior.
Very weird. What do you think the mascot did to deserve
like a
that?
drunk person to do that, like drunk people fight because they get into a disagreement. Did he get into a disagreement with the mascot?
Yeah, that's what I'm
right
saying.
before?
Like, did he walk by and like mess up his hair or something? Or
And then
spill
he's
his
like,
beer?
"That's it. This guy, I'm taking him out on top of the home team dugout because of that."
What a way to go out.
Now, to sympathize with this man a little bit, mascots are very annoying. They can really be very annoying. They will not leave you alone. Hutton, in our line of work especially, doing remote shows where mascots are involved, I mean, you do everything to just try to appease them and get them to move on. But when they don't move on and keep messing with you and they're not saying anything, it's highly annoying.
They're certainly not going to speak.
To adults. And they honestly frighten about half the small children out there. Half of them love them. The other half are frightened.
Well, some of them have no choice based on, and I know what you're saying.
I'm not trying to eradicate mascots. I'm just saying,
I'm saying
it's a very annoying thing for an adult.
But like some of the mascots, I think, are supposed to be frightening, right?
Really?
Have you seen some of these?
But the goal is to frighten children?
Like, if you take a kid to a Pelicans game, you've seen the Pelicans mascot,
Yeah,
right?
well, that
the baby?
thing, that's like It. It's like a Stephen King movie come to life.
I don't think the goal of that is to make children happy.
Well, New Orleans is a little weird with stuff like that. They like celebrate, voodoo and things of that nature. So I think the kids in New Orleans probably aren't as easily frightened.
Yeah.
Maybe
not.
If they sacrificed a goat at a young age and poured blood over something to bless it, they're probably not frightened by King Baby or whatever that thing is for the New Orleans Pelicans.
They left the Ouija board to go to the basketball game.
In general, though, mascots are just annoying as hell.
I agree.
To 98% of the population, some kids love it, and other kids are frightened by it and want it to get away.
The only mascot event I'm signing up for is the old dunk contest, NBA dunk contest.
But even as a kid, did you ever like the mascots?
No, at the dunk contest. That was it.
Yeah, that's it.
That was it. Coming up, Cynthia Freeland. We talk NFL draft, top prospects, and who she likes for certain teams based on the system and what the numbers tell her. That's next on Hot Mic.
A newlywed man in India just died after his wife's ex-lover gifted them a stereo filled with, wait for it, explosives. Man, it's undefeated, ladies and gentlemen. It is undefeated, and if you don't know what I'm saying is undefeated, then I cannot help you. But it is undefeated. It is 600 million and oh. And all of a sudden, some dude in India, he just wants to get married. And this guy here decides, all right, marry this. How easy is it to say, well, fella, you're the one that gave the gift. You gave the gift exploded, there were bombs in the gift. Guess what? We're going to arrest you. Now, I'm not saying that this is the easiest crime to solve in the world. I would argue there is probably more. Many times it is, well, not murder that's easily solved. And many times murders are not easily solved. Murders can be very, very difficult to solve. But this murder, to me, seems like a no-brainer. Hey, wait a second. Who gave the gift of the stereo? You know, the one that exploded? He did. Okay, sir, come with me. You're under arrest for a variety of offenses, including murder. What? What'd I do? What do you mean, what you do? You killed somebody. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. Dumbass. I'm telling you, though, and I think everybody would agree, it is 1,000% undefeated. 8 billion. And I'm trying to find here, I had the story up, and I'm trying to find it here. So the bride's ex gifts them a home theater music system rigged with explosives. The dude was livid that she was marrying another man. Hemendra Hirali died Monday in his house. His elder brother, Raj Kumar, died as well. They plugged in the system. They died. 18-month-old child suffered injuries. The blast was so strong, it brought down the roof and the walls of the house. This guy is Sarjay Markham. He was arrested. He is a married man and a father of 2. He was in a relationship with the 29-year-old woman and wanted her to be a second wife. He had lied to Marawi's wife that he wasn't married. She realized the truth. She wouldn't marry him, but he kept threatening her. He fitted the bomb in the system and kept it below the platform with the other gifts. He told police he had planted a device in the home theater and gifted it to the newlywed couple in a bid to kill them. He used ammonia nitrate, petrol, gunpowder that he got from firecrackers. He gift wrapped it to avoid any suspicion. The blast got triggered when the system was turned on. He worked at a stone crushing plant where he learned how to make explosives using aluminum nitrate. How about that?
Chad, when's the last time you used a context-based data model?
Maybe like when searching for a place to rent on the road.
Oh, really?
Is that what you do? Is that what the Airbnbs and Verbos of the world do?
I wouldn't know if I've ever used one.
Context-based?
A context-based data model. That's what Cynthia Freeland uses on this.
I like when anything that you search online gives you almost. I look at it like if a streamer, you watch a show and it kicks you to another show that's like it, and it gives you the options that are like that show. This is sort of the same thing.
Okay.
So yeah, I used it last night on Netflix.
Well, Cynthia knows this way better than I do.
A little bit better than we do. Slightly better.
For sure. Cynthia Freeland
being
from
very sarcastic.
NFL Network joins us as we dive into the NFL draft. Cynthia, great to have you back on. Thank you for the time. And I'm eager to dive in on the quarterbacks based on the analytical evaluation of this. But hopefully we don't come across as stupid whenever I'm mentioning all these models.
No, that was actually perfect. You use it on recommendation algorithms. You actually, with Twitter, which is I guess now X, right? Like new name for Twitter, but you use it all the time. You actually have context-based data models they're all around you. You can't escape them.
Okay, aside from...
You underestimated my smarts. That's what I'm hearing from Cynthia. Let's just point that out first.
That's why I asked you, and you just didn't assume that you hadn't used one. Aside from the analytical evaluation and then the comps for the quarterbacks, do you have a favorite quarterback of this class? Because everyone seems to have a different answer or a different solution for the top two teams.
And is the answer what your favorite quarterback is based on the comp, I guess would be the question, right? That you like this quarterback more than the others.
Of team.
So now you like this quarterback in the draft.
I think like when it comes to my favorite one, it's probably like a personality thing, right? Like which one did I think was like very interesting or whatever when I had a chance to speak to them. So I feel like I kind of like it sounds really strange, but I think like, Tanner McKee from Stanford, like I think he could have like I don't necessarily, I'm not advocating taking him in the top 10 picks. I'm not advocating taking him in the first round. I'm saying a team will be getting a good, solid, like this guy could be a starter for some games, but he felt like Trevor Siemian to me, where like he's just going to last for a really long time and be one of those backups that everybody is like, wow, this is a very useful person. So maybe that's not like the sexiest answer, but I think he's like maybe been underrated and a bit more overlooked. But as for like the top two, as the film I enjoyed watching the most, and this is saying a lot because I'm from the state of Michigan, but CJ Stroud's film was the most fun for me to watch. And I find him to be the one who I think in terms of at the next level will have the opportunity to really succeed. I feel he's the safest pick. So I enjoyed his film a lot.
For what you know with what the numbers are telling you, does Frank Reich's offense make sense for him in Carolina?
To me, it's a better fit for a couple of reasons. Better fit than Bryce Young, right? I do, let me be clear. I think Bryce Young goes number one. I think that is what will happen. But in terms of what I believe, I think there's a couple of things about CJ Stroud in this situation that make him a little bit a better fit in terms of who will win more in this one particular season. One, you have to remember that the NFC South right now is very achievable. It's not the hardest division in all of football by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, we don't even know who the quarterbacks necessarily are. I mean, we know one of them, but the rest are all up for grabs, it seems. So to me, when I'm looking at this and I look at CJ Stroud's ability to execute play action quicker with Deuce Staley there, of course, he came from the Lions this past season, formerly of the Eagles, etc. I think that play action, which is one thing that I've seen be the kind of the key to unlocking these newer quarterbacks. And I say newer because Trevor Lawrence season 2 was more impactful than season 1 as soon as they figured out play action. And I think CJ Stroud has the best chance of doing that in Carolina in year 1.
Yeah, and your article up right now at NFL.com with the comps of these quarterbacks, it's fascinating. And I think some of them, if you're a fan of the quarterback, you may not be that excited when you see some of the comps. But C.J. Stroud, who we're talking about now, Cynthia, you've got the pro comparison as Dak Prescott and Jared Goff. I say those two quarterbacks' names, I don't think of a lot of similarities. But when you put the two together, and C.J. Stroud specifically, what traits does he embody from what you've seen of both of those quarterbacks, and how do you get to that combination?
So a couple of things I've added to my data-based models, my contextual models this year, are a lot of physics dynamics about their bodies. So one thing that CJ Stroud has in common with Dak Prescott is what happens when the play breaks down and they have to run, and the velocity that they're able to get to, meaning the speed in the direction at a specific amount in time, right? So CJ Stroud has some Dak Prescott-like mobility notes on his, once he's standing in the pocket and then he either breaks contain or anything with the running game happens. And the thing about Dak Prescott that people forget was he wasn't asked to throw a pass outside the numbers or deep outside the numbers for quite some time, which meant when the Cowboys were really integrating him into their system, they were really mindful of let's make the easy passes first, and then let's go a little bit more complex and then a little bit more complex. And then as far as Jared Goff's concerned, in the pocket in college, what you saw from Jared Goff was a steady increase in his accuracy at all levels of the game and on second reads. Now, third reads, we won't get into that because quarterbacks don't use third reads in college very often. But CJ Stroud on second reads has become increasingly accurate on all levels. And that's kind of like what Jared Goff did when he was in college at Berkeley. And you got to remember, his integration, when play action worked for both of them, I'm just going to keep saying play action until somebody listens to me.
Well, and it's so now that I know you're looking at body types with these quarterbacks, it makes a ton of sense. So Bryce Young, Tua Tagovailoa, not just because they're Alabama quarterbacks, but their size and stature, that makes a ton of sense. But Teddy Bridgewater, Bryce Young, give us the connection between those two quarterbacks and their styles.
So obviously Louisville there really is nothing that compares to the level of competition Alabama quarterbacks face. It is what it is. So the level of competition adjusted. So that's always an interesting calculation you have to do in projection. But I will say that part of the mobility, Teddy Bridgewater has a really interesting way of shifting direction. So his change of direction, he barely loses any speed. Now, if I try to go from the left to the right or vice versa, like I'm losing all of my speed and starting over again, but Teddy doesn't. And that is actually what much of the similarity is. So that lateral motion, that ability side to side, Jalen Hurts has, another Alabama quarterback, has that similar type of lateral mobility that is becoming increasingly useful because remember in college, they rarely take snaps from under center and they rarely, it's just a different sort of thing, right? And they don't see a lot of zone. So both of those things are, well, if you've got lateral mobility and now you see zone, maybe you have a better chance of escaping the zone and earning more positive yardage than someone who's like, is this zone? What am I looking at? And just throws into traffic.
Cynthia Freeland with us on Hot Mic across the OutKick network. Great job breaking down the quarterbacks available now at NFL.com. Cynthia, I'm curious, and I was two takeaways from what you wrote about Anthony Richardson. Number one, very small sample size with the numbers what we saw in college. And number two, thank you for not in the comps just saying Cam Newton, because that's all anyone says. You went with the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback and then the former one with Wentz and Hurts. What do you make of Richardson, and how do you adjust for the very small playing time we saw compared to the other quarterbacks?
Well, the Wentz competition, you got to remember back in North Dakota State, Wentz had a lot of rushing yards, like over 1,000. And part of the Anthony Richardson comp there is, you try to say, what is someone's tendency when pressure's coming in their face, right? Like, well, they run. And that's kind of what both of them did. And that was a similarity there. And by the way, this is not a mean comp. People think I'm being mean. Carson Wentz, at one point, we were talking about him as a potential MVP candidate. So, like, people think it's mean. I'm like, it's not mean. There's nothing mean about that. No, we don't
take it that way either. It's the style of play and what matches
I
for
think
the
you're being very mean, actually.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Not with
Carson
Hurts.
Wentz was good for a time. Yeah, not so much right now, but he was definitely a good quarterback.
Yeah, and the raw ability and skills. I mean, there was a reason he went as high in the draft as he did. It's not like we're talking about someone who people are like, you're so mean. I'm like, mean, but whatever, right? Mean's not usually the word that's described to me. But long story short about that one, when you look at the Jalen Hurts, it's tendencies. It's what happens when pressure comes at you, because you're not going to be in a clean pocket. Are you able to have that escapability? The escapability, like Jalen Hurts, that's where the comp for Anthony Richardson comes in. Not necessarily, like Cam Newton would truck through people. Cam Newton was the same size as the defensive end, if not bigger. And he wouldn't bounce off, recoil, and then move around, right? He would just keep going straight through people. It's a very different running style and a very different, like if you did like video game look at it where it's just like little like lines everywhere, Cam's would be far more straight than what you've seen from Anthony Richardson, who makes things happen with like second, third, fourth efforts. Like this guy is just like spring balling off of people. He's an incredible athlete and not in the, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's Cam Newton.
You mentioned it, personally enjoying your football chat with Tanner McKee as a quarterback. Did you have a chance to meet with Will Levis at all?
Very briefly. I didn't get a chance to talk to him as long as I would have liked. It's just the way the combine, that thing's crazy. But it's just the way it goes. I didn't. I would like to speak to him more before I understand anything about him. But I've seen he seems pretty funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, I asked because he's the one guy of the quarterbacks that you start to get these reports that some teams are turned off by his personality, that he's a little odd, right, when they get to know him a little bit. Are you being mean when you compare him to Sam Darnold, if you weren't being mean about the Carson Wentz comparison? And what is it about Will Levis and Sam Darnold that you see that are like each other?
Sam Darnold, even in his Jets career, like before he got shipped off to Carolina even, the guy has a great deep ball. And if you remember in the Todd Bowles era of the Jets, like Sam Darnold was like, he was throwing balls off his back foot as like 400-pound men were like sandwiching him. It wasn't a great O-line situation that he fell into. And that first season, he had a lot of great results. So to me, it's the deep ball, it's the arm strength, but also the interesting decision-making, right? In college, Sam Darnold at USC didn't get dinged for that. Same as Will Levis. He threw a bunch of picks, but it's a different sort of it was a different sort of look. Like, that is a strong arm. That is something that if it's harnessed and correctly used, great. And he didn't have a ton of talent around him, which is why he also gets compared to Jay Cutler. And I know Tennessee, like, I love Vanderbilt. It's a wonderful academic school, but I don't think we're sitting here saying that they're producing the best wide receivers in the league year in and year out.
That's right.
So, some of that is similar, right? So, like, really strong arm. The footwork, it was actually really interesting. If you were to go back and watch Jay Cutler in college and then watch the Will Levis footwork, and their center of gravity is actually quite similar. So that it's a good, no one ever said Jay Cutler didn't have a huge arm, like, you never heard that. So that's kind of how they compare. And I think that's very nice. These people have had 10-year or more careers. It's not like I'm comparing them to people we don't even remember.
I like the note on the miles per hour for Will Levis, which was 58 miles per hour.
In a game.
In a game, right.
No one cares about how fast you throw without your pads on.
Right.
Like, I understand that. I think, Dorian Thompson-Roberts, the guy from out here in UCLA, he threw harder at the combine. And so did Josh Allen. But you know what? Josh Allen throws that hard in a game. DTR has not thrown that hard in a game. And I care way more about what happens when you put pads on than it's fun. You go play exhibition games, but, in pads.
I find, and you're part of the article also, but analysis of Hendon Hooker based on his offense in college and how that translates to the NFL has been interesting to read different opinions on that. I do love the team fit that you have in your analysis with Hendon Hooker being the Atlanta Falcons. I think that's probably unlikely to happen, but what is it you like about Hendon Hooker and that fit possibly with the Falcons and what Arthur Smith wants to do?
Well, Arthur Smith, I will say, when it comes to creating, and you guys know this better than most, when it comes to figuring out, again, I will keep saying play action until I'm blue in the face. But when it comes to figuring out, like, really reliable play action and, like, figuring out how many people do you need to stretch the field? Because Atlanta they're down some receivers, right? So
yes.
They've been able to masterfully figure out Cordarrelle Patterson when a lot of people don't understand his value, right? So pairing that together and the opportunity to not have to rely on every single pass being some crazy thing to Jalen Hyatt, what looks just absolutely highlight worthy, and it being like, it's not sexy, but sometimes getting a first down is absolutely the sexiest thing that can happen. And that's where the type of offense that Arthur Smith created for a Ryan Tannehill could work really well for a Hendon Hooker, especially given the fact that, like we said, the NFC South is totally achievable. But I do think, by the way, the Falcons have been mighty quiet. I feel like we haven't heard, for a team that claims Desmond Ridder as their starter, they've been real silent in this whole,
right.
Maybe they're just waiting to see how it all pans out.
Cynthia, I like your point about Cordarrelle Patterson. Hutton, I forget who we were talking to, but they were talking about Arthur Smith being the first coach in the NFL where Cordarrelle Patterson went to multiple places and everyone was trying to figure out what to do with this jumbo athlete. And it was Arthur Smith who said, "Oh, you mean that running back over there?"
Yeah, just called him a running back.
Yeah, that's that guy. He's a running back. And then that's the way they utilized him more, and he had very successful with that diagnosis of his skill set.
Cynthia, of the non-quarterbacks, do you have great fit or your favorite fits based on the work and the numbers that you've analyzed for players in the first round, for teams that maybe have an open position, or maybe based on the team's analytics at a certain position, they need to pick up this guy?
Yeah, so there's a couple. The first one that comes to mind, you can rip up my mock draft round 2 because there's been trades since then. Actually, Devin Witherspoon to the Lions would be a really nice fit. Obviously, they just got rid of Jeff Okudah, sending him to the Falcons for a 5th round pick, which is wild to me. But
yeah.
They need to figure out that secondary. The Lions could use like a lot more defensive players. They could, of their 53-man roster, they could probably handle like most of them being defensive players. I think the Panthers are still running on them somewhere in a parallel universe. But I think that one would be a great fit. Witherspoon, to me, is the most well-rounded best corner in this entire draft. And his skills really translate to the fast track that the Lions play on, and also the NFC North. Not as competitive as some of the other divisions as well. So I think that would give him the chance to really have the game open up. He could see it better and learn the speed of the game in a much better way against those offenses, as opposed to some of the other places. Like if he ends up in any AFC team, like that's good luck. Like that's way harder for any corner. So I really like that one. I also think that really it's Jackson Smith and Jigba to me is the one wide receiver in this draft class that I feel like we'll be talking about in 10 seasons. And he has played mostly in the slot, which is people say that like in the pejorative, but that's actually like a very important part of most people's teams. So I just really hope he ends up on a team that doesn't need him to be like their, number one outside guy. Like, I mean, it would be, I can't even imagine what would happen if like he ended up in Seattle in the slot. Yeesh, that could be fun to watch. Like, good luck stopping that team. But, I really hope he finds a place where he can be the slot receiver and like be useful in the slot, not just like good in the slot when he needs to be, but like useful there. And I think people forget like Devontae Adams lines up and does most of his damage in the slot too. This isn't a knock on someone to say they're a slot receiver or a slot corner or whatever. And then I'll give you one more just because, whatever. The Packers need to go out and get one of these tight ends. I would think Michael Mayer makes a little bit more sense because their O-line isn't that great, but they could go with Dalton Kincaid, who's more of a pass catcher and less of a blocker. But Mayer, to me, that's the most complete tight end in this draft. This could be the first draft as long as I can remember where we have more tight ends go than wide receivers in the first round. I would love that. That would be really fun for me. But at the end of the day, please, Packers, like if you're not going to draft a wide receiver, at least just draft a pass catcher and call it a freaking day.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, to me, just feels like one of the players that will be, and not based on play in the league, but the night that Clyde Edwards-Helaire went to the Kansas City Chiefs, it's like, oh, of course. They get that guy.
It feels like the perfect fit when the pick is made.
Because it doesn't feel like it's a great wide receiver draft, and I'm not saying he falls that far like Edwards-Helaire did, but, I mean, he'll go to a team, and he will help that team win and win a lot. I'm with you.
Yes. To me, that's the safest wide receiver by a long shot in this entire class. Like there's a lot of, it's interesting. Like, and I even went to Boston College. So like, I obviously I want Zay Flowers to do well in part because he has like 13 siblings. It's a great story. And not to say I don't like Jackson Smith and Jigba story, but BC, we don't have a lot of nice things, right? We only have a few. So at the end of the day, I'd really like to see that. But ultimately, the one I feel safest about and the one who the math bears out that has the highest probability for success is Smith and Jigba.
How many more mock
Still
drafts
hanging on to Matt Ryan at BC.
Yeah, Matt Ryan.
That's it, Cynthia.
Yeah.
So you got to hang on to Matt Ryan.
Or Vrabel's son. You've got that too. You can point to that.
I mean, we've got a few. Harold Landry. We put out like, it's just like a little sprinkling here and there, like just like some salt, right?
But when you produce someone, it's pretty elite, which is nice, right? Like I feel like they're really good when you get someone going.
Hey, how many mock drafts do you have left before you actually get to analyze and discuss the first round?
I think just one more. I kind of hate mock drafts. I'm going to be honest with you. The only reason I don't like mock drafts is because there's always like some sort of lag between something when you turn it into your editor and something happening. Yeah. So then you're like constantly sort of editing it in this weird way. And it's just like I love the exercise of it. And I love like going through and figuring it out. And then sometimes people forget that I do it a different way. Cause I'll tell you, I said it on here. I think Bryce Young goes number one. Do I think he needs to? No, I think CJ Stroud's a better fit, but what do I, if I were a reporter? No, I'd say everyone I'm talking to says it's Bryce Young. So, people forget that.
Who knows what they do? I think it's going to be crazy. I think that we think we have it figured out, and there's going to be some crazy trades. But there's going to be a team like Seattle, Tennessee, Atlanta, Las Vegas, where we feel like they have their quarterback, and then they make a move and draft one of these guys. So
yeah, Cynthia, no, I think we've seen too many teams who need a quarterback have been just a little too quiet.
Yep. Cynthia, always great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you for the time as always, and hopefully you'll join again soon.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Cynthia Freeland there, NFL Network. Love her work at NFL.com.
Really, really good
as well. Yes. Chad, also really good Game of Thrones. Now, the prequel, it's hard to live up to Game of Thrones, but HBO's running it back with another spinoff. That's next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing as the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky moonshine and whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky moonshine and whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
So the higher that number can be, the better you are with the committee. It's really that simple.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
He's got incredible taste in which media figures he listens to.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
Why are we going through Melania's goods? Don't make Brittany Griner out to be some type freedom fighter. Shouldn't there be a little bit of common sense? Let's roll them, big boy. What do you got?
They want to find someone to be the face of domestic terrorism, and they want it to be a right-wing Trump supporter. Don't let them entrap you into doing something dumb. But they were hyper-rational. They looked at the data, and they said it makes no sense for me to submit to this COVID shot mandate.
Get the shot or you can't go to your brother's wedding. Get the shot or you can't go to your daughter's graduation. Get the shot or else.
Old Smoky moonshine and whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Hot Mic rolls on across the OutKick network. Game of Thrones. Well, we've seen House of the Dragon, and now HBO, Chad, they've ordered more Game of Thrones, but this one's not going to tie into the books.
No, so...
Or it will, but it's not a book.
This doesn't shock you, I'm sure, Hutton, but I have not read the extensive works of George R.R. Martin.
No.
And I'm more of a TV follower. I have not read one word of George R.R. Martin. I enjoy the shows. So the next, they've got House of the Dragon now, which is a prequel, which is, I think, 200 years before the time of Game of Thrones.
That's right, yeah.
Now this next show, which is going to focus on Dunk and Egg, which to me reads like a buddy cop type action, drama, comedy series that's focusing on these two characters. It's a 100 years prequel of the events of Game of Thrones.
Okay.
I think it's a real missed opportunity sequentially because you have to break open a whole universe of Game of Thrones content if you're Warner HBO right now because you have the rights to it, much like Star Wars or Marvel. But if I'm going Game of Thrones, huge hit, then I go prequel, which was also a huge hit, House of the Dragon, which I enjoyed the first season. Now you got to go sequel. You want to bounce back and forth. The next project should have been Snow, which is the long-rumored Jon Snow sequel to his life and adventures after the events of Game of Thrones. That, to me, is what gets the excitement meter really pumping. From House of the Dragon prequel to sequel of Game of Thrones next. Then if you want to go back to Dunk and Egg 100 years before, you go prequel. I don't like going Game of Thrones, prequel, possible sequel after the two prequels.
Yeah, then
I hope I made
that makes
sense. Yeah.
It makes sense. But it makes sense to people who have seen Game of Thrones.
Next. Go sequel next. But even if you haven't seen it, you don't have to see it to understand what I'm saying. Huge hit, prequel, then sequel to the huge hit. Now back to the prequel. But not huge hit, prequel.
Yeah, but the prequel, correct me if I'm wrong, that the original House of the Dragon, that was a book, right? That was through the series that they went back to.
I think
or it was like a lineage of whatever we watched for Game of Thrones.
Because the last season wasn't even told by George R.R. Martin, I'm not really sure.
But
who's writing what now?
But this one is definitely not.
Though I think this one is his characters.
But there's nothing like they can make this whatever they want.
I think it's in the book somewhere, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean, George R.R. Martin's still trying to finish the Game of Thrones book, right? But it's already done. It's already been told. He allowed that to happen.
Do it while you're alive.
We're back at it tomorrow to wrap up the week. Hot Mic across the OutKick network.